Channel 5, WPTZ, Plattsburgh, North Pole, Burlington.
NBC Sports presents Major League Baseball, an inside look and a preview of today's games. And it's brought to you by K-Care, where quality automotive parts and service are Kmart price. And by Federal Express, when it absolutely, positively has to be there overnight. Federal Express. Hi, everyone. I'm Mike Adamle, along with Bill Mackatee and Dave Marash. Delighted to be with you here in our 30 Rockefeller Plaza studios in New York, which for the next 26 weeks will be our home base for our outstanding Major League Baseball coverage. And in 1983 on NBC, we'll have exclusive coverage of the All-Star Game, the League Championship Series, as well as a very attractive primetime schedule. Dave?
Michael, that is for 83, but what about for the rest of the decade? Well, if negotiations that have been concluded between the networks and Major League Baseball's television committee hold true, here's the lineup. NBC will be televising the World Series in the even-numbered years, 84, 86, and 88. ABC will have the World Series in the odd-numbered years. NBC will have the League Championship Series, perhaps at 4 out of 7 rather than 3 games out of 5, and the All-Star Game in the odd-numbered years, 85, 87, and 89. ABC will have them in the even-numbered years. NBC will have exclusive broadcast rights to Saturday afternoon baseball. ABC will show some Sunday afternoon games and a selected schedule of prime time games. This is if the Major League Baseball Television Committee recommendations are approved by the owners, who have rarely been able to drive in the same direction even in a 2-car funeral. Also, the contract negotiations have gotten emotionally tangled up in whether Bowie Kuhn will survive as commissioner. Still in all, bet the contract negotiated by the committee will hold, and the lineup we gave you will be the one you'll be watching for the rest of the 1980s.
All right, Dave, now let's get you caught up on some of what has happened so far today in baseball. At Shea Stadium here in New York, the defending world champion St. Louis Cardinals scored 4 runs in the 7th to break up a pitcher's duel between Joaquin Andujar and Mike Torres. They lead the Mets 5-0. In Toronto, the Blue Jays are on top of the Yankees 2-0 in the 7th. And at Fulton County Stadium, Atlanta leads San Diego 5-2. Bob Horner hit a 2-run home run for the Braves in the 1st. Bruce Benedict added a solo shot for the Braves in the 4th.
Bill, earlier this week in baseball, the Minnesota Twins received some disturbing news as their outstanding young center fielder, 23-year-old Jim Eisenreich, decided to retire from baseball permanently because of what he described as a reoccurring nervous disorder. And in also some surprising news, 54-year-old Ray Grebe, the director of baseball's Player Relations Committee for the past 5 years, and the man who represented management during the 50-day-old baseball strike of 1981, resigned this past Thursday. Now, yesterday in Kansas City, the Royals were scheduled to have their home opener against the defending champion Milwaukee Brewers of the American League. That game was canceled because of snowy and rainy conditions. They have more of the same today. However, they are scheduled to play that game underway in about just a half hour from now. And in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs in Landover, Maryland, the defending champion New York Islanders have taken a 4-0 lead in the second period over the Washington Capitals. First goal by Bob Bourne at 9:31 of the first period. And then 5 minutes later, Bourne does it again. Here, the nifty assist from Ken Morrow, the quick wrist shot past Al Jensen. Brian Trottier added 2 goals in the second period. The Islanders lead the Capitals 4-0. That series is tied at 1. And we will be back with more of 30 Rock after these commercial messages. Earlier, Dave Marash talked about the new baseball pack that NBC is part of. Well, another great acquisition this year by NBC, Vin Scully. Of course, he has been the voice of the Brooklyn Dodgers ever since it left Brooklyn and now Los Angeles. He joins us this week.
And Durham promptly bangs it into left field. Base hit. Baker up with it. Here comes Buckner. Here's the throw. He is out at the plate. Kimball ready, and his 3-1 pitch is swung on. A high drive into deep center. Back goes Woods. It's gone. And the pitch to Marshall. Breaking ball, whacked into left field. Base hit. Here's Baker around third. Here's Baker to the plate. He scores.
Well, just a couple of moments, some great moments, Vin, but I must say that this is a great moment to be teamed up with you. We're going to be having some fun this whole summer because it looks like a great baseball season, and for all of us, welcome, and it's the beginning of a long, long relationship.
You bet. And, Joe, I'm delighted to be with you to look forward to a great, exciting year of baseball, and it'll be wonderful to share it. For instance, just to look at the National League and try and figure the winner is almost impossible. We're certainly going to look at a team here that figures prominently in the East, the Montreal EXPOS.
They've got 5 guys. We can begin with Dawson, who I think is one of the better players in the league. Best catcher in Carter. Tim Raines, the best base stealer. And they got Steve Rogers going. San Diego, I think, with Steve Garvey over there, is much stronger.
And, of course, the St. Louis Cardinals are the champions of the world, and they have to be toppled before you can think otherwise. And in the West, that takes care of the East. In the West, it's going to be wild because I don't really think there's any form. You have Atlanta, the Dodgers, you name it.
Well, at the Atlanta Braves, for me, last year, you just wonder how good they are, and they've got some fellows who can hit that ball, Murphy and Horner. And I want to get a plug in for those Philadelphia Phillies. Everybody's getting them a little heat about being the Wheeze kids, but that's going to be pretty good.
Yeah, Wheeze kids are not. The National League very much up in the air, but of course they're on a winning streak in the World Series. What about the American League? Well, let's go to Bob Costas and Toni Kubek in Kansas City and find out.
All right, thanks very much, Vin and Toni. I'm looking forward to working with you this year. We'll see great baseball in both leagues. But today in Kansas City, an American League town, let's talk about the junior circuit, the West first.
Western Division, I think like Vin said, a lot of coins could be flipped this year. An injury here, an injury there could make the difference. 3 teams should be involved in the West: White Sox, California, and, of course, these Kansas City Royals. California's not too old, and their pitching's probably going to be better than people think. White Sox have some infield problems on occasion, especially on the left side of that shortstop spot. They're deep in pitching. Kansas City, starting pitching a problem. If Gura and Leonard don't have good years, they could be in trouble.
Now, in the East, Milwaukee would be the favorite, but of course the health situation, Fingers and Vukovic, that throws it wide open despite the awesome hitting power of the Brewers. And now we think about other clubs. How about the Tigers, 4 deep among the starters?
Well, anytime you've got a staff anchored by Petrie and Morris, you've got a good staff. A couple of other starters that come along will help out. They've got to get somebody out of the bullpen, and of course Sparky Anderson has to get some of his kids, Wilson and Howard Johnson, in the lineup and be productive for him.
Baltimore goes to a 5-man rotation now with Joe Altobelli as their manager. Took Milwaukee to the last day. In New York, George got Kemp and Baylor for Billy to work with.
Well, they're not going to leave them in on base like they did the last year. And Winfield with Kemp and Baylor, they're going to clean the bases, and it could mean that Winfield's heading for an MVP year. But they've got some starting pitching problems, and last year Gossige's arm was a little tired. My favorite in that division is Baltimore because I think their pitching staff's going to be outstanding this year.
And a young club coming on, one you can't ignore, the Toronto Blue Jays, one of the best starting 4s among their pitching in all of Major League Baseball. As always, new faces in new places. Let's take a look.
Opening day in Cincinnati. For the 99th year, the first baseball team started off the National League Parade. A Cincinnati tradition, but things have changed at Riverfront.
Just 10 years ago, Nixon was president, the Reds had won the pennant, Bench, Rose, Morgan, Perez. Well, now 10 years later, Bench is still here, Rose, Morgan, and Perez are in Philadelphia, and Nixon's the manager.
It's Russ Nixon, who took over last year as the Cincinnati Reds hit rock bottom. Around the majors this opening week, 7 brand new managers. Bill Virdon hopes to discipline the Expos to their first pennant. Joe Altobelli may have the toughest job. He's replacing a living legend, Earl Weaver, in Baltimore.
Sure, I'm going to be compared to the guy. I'm sure that it might be for the rest of my days.
Another former Yankee coach, Mike Ferraro, is the brand new Indian chief in Cleveland. In California, John McNamara replaces Gene Mauch as the Angels are still looking for their first pennant. In Oakland, Billy Ball is gone. Steve Boris's job to get the A's back in the win column. While in Texas, the Manager a Year Club has installed Doug Rader as the new Ranger skipper. And in New York, Billy's back for the 3rd time, and again swearing that George will leave him alone.
He's going to let me do my thing down there, and that's what the players really want. And by George letting me do that, then I can relax those players a little bit more in the clubhouse. And then baseball will become fun. Winning is fun.
Billy started off with 2 straight losses, but free agent Steve Kemp immediately paid dividends for the Yankees, as did other big-name uniform changers. Tom Seaver came home to New York. The Mets' biggest opening day crowd in 15 years. He pitched 6 innings of shutout ball. Steve Garvey got 2 hits in his Padre debut and took over the leadership role as San Diego swept the Giants.
Quite a challenge for me. I have been part of a tradition and helped perpetuate that. Now I'm helping to start a tradition in San Diego, a winning tradition there.
The changing faces do wonders for season ticket and scorecard sales, but not in Cincinnati. The Stars are gone, so opening day attendance was down by 10,000.
But while Riverfront isn't a sellout, thousands did come as they came to all the openers in the majors this week to watch baseball blast off in '83.
The #1 blaster, Ken Landreau of the Dodgers. 8 RBIs in the first 2 games. Garvey and Say may be gone, but Landreau helped the Dodgers sweep Houston anyway. The most surprising sweep of the week, the Texas Rangers. Good pitching and defense. 3 straight wins over the White Sox. The best hit of the week, Reds rookie Gary Redus out in left field. He hits the wall, holds on, stays in the game, and later hits a homer. No such luck, though, for Jim Curran of the White Sox. On this pitch, he throws it away, injuring his elbow in the process. In Boston, Jim Rice wasn't hurt by this Dave Steve pitch, but we had our first near brawl of the season. Benches emptied, but no punches were thrown. The worst error of the week, the opening day parachutist carrying the first ball in Baltimore. He missed the stadium. Rick Dempsey of the Orioles made up for it. A jumping, twirling high five. Best of the year? Will anyone top it?
Those answers will come in time. But for this week, it was enough just to get things started. John Keebler, help us get things started, will you?
Play ball! Thank you very much, Lynn Berman. We're a few minutes away from the start of our games, either the Dodgers Expos or Brewers Royals, and we'll be sending you out to the ballpark as our sports day continues on NBC. Bill Mackatee and Mike Adamle back in New York. We are moments away from our opening day first pitch here on NBC, so now let's send you out to the ballpark.
At Dodger Stadium, manager Tommy Lasorda. 2 superstars are gone. 2 young kids are playing. You have to motivate.
Without a question, Vinny. You know, we miss Ron Say and Steve Garvey. There were 2 contributing factors for the Dodgers' success over a 10-year period, and they were both outstanding players and outstanding young men. The 2 young men we feel, have great talent. All they need is the opportunity. Mike Marshall's playing a new position. He's worked awful hard at it. Greg Brock comes to us with great credentials from AAA. I believe, just like everyone else in this organization, they're going to be 2 outstanding players.
Pressure going to get to him early?
Well, we're hoping that it won't, and that's my job, is to keep that off of them. I have to keep them relaxed, keep them believing in themselves, and when things go wrong, make them understand that everybody has a bad day in baseball.
So that's the feeling here at Dodger Stadium as we await the start of the ball game with the Expos, and from the dugout, right back to 30 Rock.
That's it from 30 Rock. We'll be back throughout the day to update you on all the scores and all the games being played this afternoon. In just a few moments, it's baseball here on NBC, 1983 style. And we'll be out to the ballparks after these messages from your local station.
Saturday, will Arnold's slogan give him the crutch he needs to win the class election?
Vote for me, please, or I'll break your knees.
Then are Kate's innocent kisses being taken the wrong way by Ricky?
It's inevitable that he'd fall for Ricker.
Silver spoon.
All right! Saturday's a super...
WPTV, Plattsburgh, North Pole, Burlington, serving Montpelier.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tommy Lasorda, manager of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Welcome to NBC's first televised game of the week with Joe Garagiola and Vince Scully. What a great pair. You're going to really enjoy them. On behalf of the entire Dodger organization, the city of Los Angeles, we welcome all of you, and you can rest assured that the Dodger Blue will give you exciting and aggressive baseball the entire season. Thank you very much.
NBC Sports presents the
the Major League Baseball Game of the Week. Today from Dodger Stadium, it's the Montreal EXPOS versus the Los Angeles Dodgers. The Game of the Week is brought to you by Miller High Life, the best beer for the best time of the day. Welcome to Miller Time. By Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? By Sears Roebuck and Company. For quality merchandise coast to coast, it's Sears. And by Ryder Truck Rental, the best truck money can rent or lease. Dodger Stadium, the scene of today's action between the Montreal EXPOS and the Los Angeles Dodgers. Under pewter gray and somewhat weepy-looking skies, the EXPOS, who beat the Dodgers yesterday 8-3, this the second game of the three-game series. Hi, everybody. I'm Vin Scully, and welcome to the NBC Game of the Week. It's a great thrill for me. It's also a wonderful feeling to share the booth with a man who is beginning his 20th year on NBC Baseball. Now, let's see. 9 years in the big league, 676 regular season games, lifetime batting average .257, 42 home runs, 255 RBIs. Best year, 1952, against the Pittsburgh Pirates when he hit .273. And in the 1946 World Series for the Cardinals against the Red Sox, all he did was hit .316. Mr. Joe Garagiola.
I love a guy who reads all the bubblegum cards, not just the front of it.
And memorizes
That's
them.
right. That's great. But it is going to be a great year, and I'm happy we're teamed up.
Oh, I am too, Joe, because I love baseball. I love to broadcast. I love to share it with somebody who knows what he's doing, and you certainly do because you've been there.
Well, we did play some, and we got a chance to talk to the players. Like you, I wanted to find out about Bill Virdon. And I keep reading about how tough he is. What is his philosophy? So I went down and I asked him that very question.
Well, then we're all ears. Let's listen.
Well, we brought Bill Virdon over to the enemy dugout. He really belongs in the Montreal dugout, which is a new one. And, Bill, they say you run a team and a camp like a boot camp. What is your philosophy of managing?
I just think there's certain things that you need to do and have to do if you expect to be a successful team. I think you need to do the fundamentals and get the attention and dedication from the players over a full season and the full effort of all 25 players if you expect to be a divisional winner.
How different do you manage this club as opposed to the Houston club that you had?
Well, as far as managing the club in the course of the game, it is some different because we got a lot more power on this club, so I probably won't run as much, but there will be times with against certain clubs and certain tough pitchers that I will exercise the hit and run and moving the runners as much as possible.
Bill, good luck to you. It's a new job. It should be quite a race.
Thank you. I think it will be.
Bill Virdon, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Baseball fever. Catch it. It lasts forever.
The preceding message was furnished by Major League Baseball.
Hi, this is Gary Carter of the Montreal EXPOS, and I'll give today's lineup against the Los Angeles Dodgers. Leading off will be Tim Rock Raines, one of the fastest guys in baseball today. Batting second and playing shortstop will be Brian Twig Little, who beat Chris Fire out this spring. Andre the Hawk Dawson will be batting third and playing center field, who's off to a phenomenal start. Al Scoop Oliver, who I feel is definitely on his way to the Hall of Fame. We've nicknamed him Dr. Hall. He'll be batting fourth and playing first base. Yours truly will be batting fifth and catching. Tim Wallach batting sixth and playing third base. We also got Warren Cromartie playing right field and batting seventh. Doug Flynn playing second base and batting eighth. And Charlie Lea will be on the mound today batting ninth.
Well, that's the way the Montreal EXPOS will stack up offensively. And as the umpires four make their way to home plate, here's the way the Dodgers with the leather will be stationed. Dusty Baker will be in left field, Kenny Landreau in center, and Mike Marshall in right. Pedro Guerrero, the former right fielder, is at third base. the senior member of the firm, Mr. Bill Russell at shortstop. The Rookie of the Year last year, Steve Sachs at second base, and rookie Greg Brock at first. Behind the plate, Steve Yeager, and on the mound, 16-game winner last year, right-hander Bob Welch.
Bob Welch, a hard-throwing right-hander, fastball. He gets behind a lot. You'll see a lot of 3-2 counts. And when he gets in trouble, he just rears back and throws. And how many of us can ever forget that great confrontation is what it was. 78 World Series, Reggie Jackson, Bob Welch. Take a look at it.
Well, it was a euphoric moment for the Dodgers back then, and as they take the field today, it should be duly noted that Reggie Jackson raised a few lumps on Robert Welch's body before he got through with him in the World Series.
He nailed one. I remember that home run because everybody was so anxious to see what was going to happen the second time around, and as Reggie, who can rise to any occasion, he really did raise some lumps.
A couple of things we might talk about Bob Welch. He has a fastball and a curveball. He's been working on what they call a choke change. You get that baseball way back into the hand and kind of squeeze it to death while releasing it. He has somewhat of a hyper personality. In fact, they have a tendency to go out and calm him down and stroke him a little bit, slow him up. He has a tendency to recoil when he pitches and sometimes will fall towards first base. And for that matter, the Expos might try and exploit that with a bunt or two up along third. He has an especially good fastball when he is well, but Joe, this spring he's had a psychological problem. He's had a tender elbow, and he really has been afraid to air it out, blow it out.
That's always one of those barriers that especially the young pitcher has to, or the young athlete for that matter. But I think another added load was that that recovery, that rehabilitation.
Mm-hmm.
Every time he went somewhere, everybody would ask him in interviews, and it's tough enough to talk about how to try to win without extra, but he had extra on him.
So Bob Welch getting ready to pitch to Tim Raines, Brian Little, and Andre Dawson. What difference a year makes? Well, we've just showed you the Dodgers defensively, and we can give you the opening day lineup just 1 year ago. Garvey, gone. Say, gone. Landro Guerrero, Yeager, Saxon Russell are still there. Here's today's start with Greg Brock, Steve Sachs, Bill Russell, Pedro Guerrero, and then Baker, Landro, Marshall, and Yeager behind the plate. Another thing to keep in mind, although it is somewhat of a gray day, Bob Welch was two pitchers. He was a Jekyll and Hyde. He was extremely effective at night, and he was dismal in the daytime. In fact, he had an earned run average difference of a full run night and day, and that's a lot.
That is a lot. Yesterday's ball game, watching it, Tim Raines will lead it off, and he jumped on the first pitch, and he was running from the time he got on base. And I'm sure that's one of the things that Yeager will catalog. Watch the first pitch to Tim Raines.
You know, Tim started off slow enough. He was 0 for 6 in the first couple of games with the Cubs, but he has exploded now, and he has had 5 hits in his last 7 at-bats. You know, we were talking a moment ago about the change in the Dodgers starting lineup. How about this change in the National League? There are only 3 leadoff men from last year who still have their job as leadoff man this year, and it would be Raines, Sachs, and Mookie Wilson. Ball 1. 1-0 the count to Tim, and of course Guerrero has to shorten up and play on the grass. Raines, switch hitter, gives you tremendous weapon. High fly ball into shallow left center. Landro started back, but he corrects now and makes the catch. Not too bad a day, a little bit gray, but the sun is up there, and this multicolored backdrop, it'll be a little tough picking up balls.
Batting second for Montreal, the shortstop.
Brian Little
is known to bunt at least once a game, Vin, and I'd have to think that with Raines not getting on, Little would pick this time to bunt. I'd be looking for it to get something started. Guerrero certainly is, being in at third base.
Well, he's the only rookie on the Expo squad, and if anybody should know about Brian Little, the Dodgers should. They originally drafted him, but he opted to continue in school, and that wasn't a bad idea. Yeah, there you go. At least he's letting you know. 0-1 to count to Brian Little, who began hitting .250. Strike one pitch is a shot off his glove, deflected slowly to Sachs, picks it up, hurries to Brock, and gets him. Boy, that's when it is so important to have that follow-through, Joe.
That it is, and Welch had it and just gets enough of it to get it over to Sachs. His balance was excellent, and Sachs just an outstanding young fielder because he's in every play all the time, and he makes a good play. Might add that Charlie Lea, the other pitcher I saw in Miami game this spring, get hit with a line drive off the bat of Bumbry. So when you talk about follow-through, Vin, it is so important.
Well, here he is, Mr. Andre Dawson. He and Bill Buckner, the only two men in the National League to hit 300 for 3 straight years, and he is something. Ball one. Dawson, 4 for 5, going head-to-head with Bob Welch last year. Great player, on the verge of, you name it. His wife said he's going to be the MVP this year.
I would go along with that, I tell you.
Big breaking ball for a strike, 1-1.
He's really Bobby Bonds without the strikeouts. He can do it all. There'd be no surprise to see him 40 home runs, 40 stolen bases. Awesome player.
He has 7 consecutive hits. He had 3 singles, a double, and a triple yesterday. No pitch, time called. We pause briefly for station identification. This is the NBC television network.
Channel 5, WPTZ, Plattsburgh, North Pole, Burlington.
2 down, first inning. Vin Scully with Joe Garagiola at Dodger Stadium. No score. 1 ball, 1 strike. 1 and 2. Good change. He took just enough off of it. Boy, that's an important pitch.
Secret of pitching, as Carl Erskine said, is keeping the hitter off stride. Nothing does it better than that last pitch you saw.
1 and 2 to Andre Dawson. And Lugout got him in the ribs with a fastball. In fact, it hit him off the left arm, and he's calling the trainer out. And that was a pretty good heater, so he'll need a little help, even though he's not rubbing. It got him just above the left elbow, I believe. So Andre Dawson nailed by a Bob Welch fastball. Joe, you want to take a look at it?
I think what he was trying to do is what all pitchers try to do when they're ahead, is to move him back. And his fastball will just trail him right in. There's no way he could get out of the way of that one. The only way a pitcher can make the plate wide, and that's what he's trying to do, is by backing hitters off. Hitters will try to make it a small plate by crowding it. Pitchers try to make it wide by moving you back. And that ball just trailed him in and really gave him a nasty crack.
So Andre Dawson hit on the left elbow. Will stay in the ballgame, thank goodness. So with 2 down, Dawson hit by the pitch. And in a moment, Al Oliver coming up. And for Al Oliver, a milestone in a brilliant career. This is his 2000th Major League game. That, he wears an O. The public address announcer always says 0, but I always say no, not with Oliver. That's a letter. That's the letter O for Oliver. Hey, there ain't no 0 about that guy.
That's right.
Oh, what a hitter. So Dawson, who can move at first. Welch has an ordinary deliver, nothing really fancy. Oliver takes away ball 1. I would think that Virdon would just as soon keep Brock on the bag with a left-hand hitter like Oliver up there.
With his kind of power, he can pull that ball. He'll want that hole between first and second. And he uses such a small bat, 33-35.
The pitch to Oliver picked up the outside corner, and the count 1-1. By the way, Dawson, stole 39 bases last year, so he really can run. It's not just a phrase of, oh, how fast he runs, and you never see him put it on the line. Did I just hear the Cardinals beat the Mets? 5-0. 1-1, the count to Al Oliver. And Ollie fouls it away off to the left, out of play. Time flies so much in talking about the Mets and looking at Montreal. It was 14 years ago yesterday that the Mets at Shea Stadium played Montreal in the first international baseball game. 1-2. Oliver hits a line drive at Russell, and that's it. So they leave Dawson, who was hit by a pitch. No runs, no hits, a man left. And at the end of half an inning, Montreal nothing, and the Dodgers coming up. Bottom of the first inning, Montreal failed to score. Hear how the Dodgers stack up offensively. Last year's Rookie of the Year, Sachs leading off. Kenny Landreau, who's been swinging the hottest bat, will be hitting second, and Dusty Baker in the third shot in left field. Pedro Guerrero hitting cleanup at third base, and Greg Brock, the rookie, at first. Mike Marshall will be in right field. Bill Russell, the senior member, he's been with the Dodgers since 1969 and still going strong at shortstop. The catcher is Steve Yeager, and the pitcher, Bob Welch. It is a lineup that won 2 in Houston and then was brought up short yesterday. And today, looking at Charlie Lea.
There's the defense. Wallach gets the third, Little at short, Flynn, Oliver at first, Carter's the catcher, Lee is the pitcher. I waited for the outfield last because Raines in left, Dawson in center, Cromartie in right field. They refer to each other as homie, H-O-M-I-E, because they're all from Florida. And Cromartie says, when you look at us in the outfield, you're looking at the I-95 connection.
Joe Amalfitano. Charlie Lea working on Steve Sachs, Kenny Landreau, and Dusty Baker. Sachs had such a big year last year that he never went more than 2 games or 11 at-bats without a hit. It was a great way for him to break in, hitting .282. He led the Dodgers in about 5 categories. Sachs starting off this year hitting .300. Of course, the averages this time of year fluctuate so wildly. Charlie Lea delivers. And here we go. Ball 1. 1-0. Tell you a little bit about Charlie Lea with a fastball, a slider, an occasional curve. In fact, Galen Cisco says he didn't throw it enough. Little slider on the corner for a strike. He has a good straight change. He's had some arm trouble, and he has a very slow delivery, so that if Sachs or some of the other Terriers get aboard, they'll try and exploit it. The 1-1 pitch. Ball 2, 2-1.
Problem with that is they got the big wrecker exploiter behind the plate, Carter, who really had a clinic out here yesterday. Dodgers were running. He was shooting them out like the kid at the carnival.
Well, you know, the Dodgers stole 9 bases in Houston. They thought, oh, this is easy. And then Carter said, shape up, guys, and shot him down. Hit in the air to right field. Cromartie going back on the ball. He has it all the way. So Sachs, a fly ball to right field, 1 down. We have a moment. I would like to call up the umpires. Joe West is the plate umpire. Ed Vargo at first, Dick Stello at second, and Satch Davidson at third. And Ed Vargo's young son, David, was operated on this morning in Butler, Pennsylvania. And Ed umpiring on the line behind first, we know with a heavy heart. And we send along our best wishes and prayers for a speedy recovery for David. Here is Kenny Landreau. Landreau on fire all spring in the first couple of games. Hurt his wrist yesterday as he takes ball 1. In fact, he has some special padding on the left hand. He made a diving attempt for a catch, landed heavily on the wrist. X-rays proved negative. He's hitting .417, and he had the honor of hitting the first home run. He hit it yesterday in the bullpen. Strike. Last year, ironically, he did not hit a home run against an Eastern Division club last year. Yeah, he had a big night in Houston. He had 6 RBIs in 1 game. Little nubber off the end of the bat. Right there is Wallach with a great arm to handle him easily. So 2 down in the first inning. No score in the ball game. Charlie Lea, Bob Welch, the Expos and the Dodgers, and now Dusty Baker coming up, hitting .364. You know, I have so many questions to ask you about catching. I don't really know when to begin, and it is such a great position. But I hope during the day, Joe, we can talk about it.
Well, we got 2 of the better throwers in the league, and I think the best catcher in the National League is Gary Carter.
Would you qualify by National League? In other words,
yeah.
Baker takes the strike.
Lance Parrish over at Detroit is a pretty good-looking catch here. And you got Pena over at Pittsburgh. He's pretty good, but Carter. I think if you needed a blueprint for a catcher, I think I'd use Carter.
Yeah, I think so, too. 0-1 the count. And Baker hits it on the hands. A high pop fly to the left side. And Tim Wallach looking up into that gray wool sky and puts it away. So the Dodgers go easily. 1-2-3 here in the first inning. Charlie Lea and Bob Welch locked up. And at the end of one inning, the Expos nothing, the Dodgers nothing. We're going to the second inning here at Dodger Stadium, so pull up a chair and stay with us. The Dodgers and the Expos. No score. Gary Carter to start it off. He'll be followed by Tim Wallach and then Warren Cromartie. With all of his numbers, you know what's very interesting, too? He's pretty much of a contact hitter, even though he swings for distance and power. And for that matter, he was the most home runs and yet fewest strikeouts ratio of any of the big guys. He is something.
He plays so much. I think 91% of the Expo games he's caught.
Breaking ball for a strike, and that was a good curveball for Welch, and the count 1-1. Gary, 29 years old yesterday. There is a definite California flavor to this. 7 of the Expos are from the state, and 2 others live here. So 9 of the 25 hail from out here. And there's a drive into deep left field, hooking as it goes down the line. Foul and out of play.
You know what I like about Gary Carter, Ben? I'm so sick of hearing the tools of ignorance. Oh. That man got 15 million for 8 years? How dumb could he be?
And you know, the man who referred to them as tools of ignorance was one of the brightest men who ever played this game, Mo Berg. He was putting everybody on.
Spoke 7 languages.
High foul off the slider down the right field line out of play, and that will go back into the seats. So Gary Carter with the count 1-2, followed by Tim Wallach, Warren Cromartie, second inning, no score. Welch pitched against Montreal twice last year. Ground ball to Russell. Tricky hop. He stayed with it and got it. Oh, was that a bad hop? Not the high bad hop. The bottom dropped out of it, and Russell, good quick hand.
I thought he was going to charge the ball. It's a good pitch. Carter can't get under it and really beats down on it. And Russell kind of laid back on the ball and got caught in between hops. Right there is where he gets caught, and as Vince said, the bottom just fell out.
So Russell makes a good play on Carter, and the batter is Tim Wallach. Now, Wallach, all he did, and he's another native Southern Californian, all he did was hit .565 last year against the Dodgers. Otherwise, he didn't do a thing. He was the only Expo player to hit a home run here, and he's going to have a big year. 0-1. Fastball hit down the right field line, foul out of play. Remember the remark we made about Welch being Jekyll and Hyde day and night? His 2 games against Montreal last year would probably explain it. He started in the daytime May the 2nd and lasted 2/3 of an inning in the daytime. Came back on May 9th at night, went all the way, and allowed just 1 run. Fouled away. Still 0-2. Crowd reacting. That high foul ball landed up on the 4th deck, and by the time they got through squeezing it, it wound up in the 2nd. So Tim Wallach with 1 out, second inning, bases empty, no score. Breaking ball missed, but that's what they're trying to do. Instead of just be a power pitcher, Joe, they want him to break it off more.
And even if you don't get the strike, it adds to your confidence.
1-2 pitch on the way, on the inside corner. Now, you talk about setting him up. Breaking ball away, came back, breaking ball inside, and got him. So 2 down as well, strikes out Tim Wallach. And the batter now, the Crow, Warren Cromartie. Remember when they used to call it the salary drive because you'd bear down in September? Now you have a salary year because next year he goes into free agency.
Times have changed.
Cromartie hitting .250 as you saw. I think he's a better hitter than that. Fastball away, ball 1.
They talk about his lack of discipline last year in the batter's box, but this year he hasn't, and he's using the whole field, and the defense against him shows it.
That missed inside. His lifetime batting average is .280, so you know he's a good one. He dropped 50 points from 1981 to 82. Warren Cromartie. 2 balls, no strikes. Has a look all the way, and that's a strike. He has a very good knowledge of the strike zone, as all good hitters. I think he walked almost 70 times last year.
Tried to pull the ball a lot, but this year, Landreau right now is shading him towards the left center hole.
2-1 to count to Warren Cromartie. 2 down, second inning, no score. Fastball and a one-hopper speared by Russell. Got him. So Russell makes 2 excellent plays in the second inning. One on Carter and the other one on Cromartie. And at the end of an inning and a half, no score. We're going to the bottom of the second inning here at Dodger Stadium. No score in the ball game. The Expos and the Dodgers, Bob Welch and Charlie Lea. The Dodgers will send up Pedro Guerrero, followed by Greg Brock, and then Mike Marshall. Guerrero figures to be the star, the #1 player on the Dodgers right now. Little slider away, ball 1. In fact, Tommy Lasorda says to him he has a chance to be a Frank Robinson. And that's some chance. 1 ball and no strikes. Fastball hit foul. He's the only National League player to rank in the top 10 in all Triple Crown categories. And that's one reason, I guess, why Tommy thinks about him in that way. Another thing for all of us to remember in the spring, we did just a little bit of research. I'm not going to overwhelm you with a lot of numbers about home run hitters and the month of April. They just don't go together. Not often, anyway. That's a strike. For instance, last year Jackson hit 39 home runs. He had 1 in April. Gorman Thomas, 39, none in April. Dwight Evans, 32, none in April. Cecil Cooper, 32, 1 in April. Gary Carter, 29, none in April. Ground ball, back of third, fair ball. Wallach, a long throw, and Dr. Scoop came up with it. So Al Oliver, the Oliver Construction Firm, open. Take a look at that, Joe.
Good play on both ends. Wallach, watch him brace himself, and this is what makes the play. He wasn't going to just flip it over there. He had all he could put on that ball, and a nice play by Oliver. And Guerrero, for a big guy, he can get down that line. Major league play.
So Tim Wallach makes a gem over to Al Oliver, and with 1 away, here is Greg Brock. Fouled it back, 0-1.
Then I was interested on that first pitch because I made a note yesterday with Sanderson pitching. They threw him a slow curveball, and usually when the rookie goes up against the pitcher the first time, the pitcher will kind of tip off as how he's going to pitch to him. I thought it was slow stuff, but Lee came back with hard stuff.
Strike 1 pitch to Greg. In there again, strike 2. In fact, Tommy Lasorda talking to his kids, and he said, when you get a telegram, what's the first thing you do? And the kid said, I read it. Well, he said the first pitch to you from the pitcher is a telegram. And that's what he's telling Messrs. Royce and Howe right now. That's high, 1 and 2.
First pitch, and there's always a pitch of decision where you want to make it happen, and that's one of the things the catcher has to do is catalog that. What did I do the last time? You can't go into a rut. There are certain catchers that are almost like a computer. Certain situations, they'll do the same thing over and over.
The 1-2 pitch to Brock. Fastball on the hands, but he was quick enough to at least hit a fly ball to Andre Dawson in center field. Say, friends, great tennis comes your way tomorrow. NBC Sports presents the finals of the 11th Annual Family Circle Cup Tennis Championship from beautiful Sea Pines Plantation in Hilton Head, South Carolina. Your center court seats guaranteed right here on the home of the French Open and Wimbledon. NBC Sports. Tracy Austin, Martina Navratilova. That should be a dandy. Now here's Mike Marshall. Has a tendency to come in on every pitch, and he pops it up, and it'll be Al Oliver coming to the mound and taking charge, and that's that. So Guerrero loses a hit on a fine play by Tim Wallach in third, but Brock and Marshall are pretty well jammed by Charlie Lea. No score at the end of 2. We'll be back after these messages from your local station. The palm trees back of left field, a light breeze, just a zephyr really, blowing from left to right, and the sunshine has broken through. We have some patches of blue sky overhead, so all is well. The table is set at Dodger Stadium. No score as we go to the third inning. It'll be Doug Flynn, followed by Charlie Lea, and then Tim Raines. Flynn, a Gold Glove, came up with Cincinnati, went to the Mets. A bunt up along first, fielded by Welch to get him. Actually, That's one time that Welch's weakness is his strength. As we mentioned, he has a tendency in his follow-through to fall towards first. So if you're going to bunt on him, it's a lot better to go the other way. One down. Joe, next week, Kansas City at Milwaukee. It'll be the first chance to go to the wonderful city where the World Series was so exciting to watch.
They really proved something in that World Series. Everybody thought they were a bunch of Paul Bunyan's who could just hit the ball, and they really flashed some defense in the World Series. That's a good, solid ball club, and they've got some tough breaks with Vukovic and Fingers, but I'll tell you something. Augustine gave him a little shot.
And let me tell you, anytime I can look at Robin Yount, that's worth it right there.
You got it.
All I need. And don't forget, the Expos will be on NBC next week. They travel to Houston to face the Astros. 1 ball and no strikes to Charlie Lea. Bob Welch, who had a big April last year, had a poor spring training. Fouled off 1-1.
And Vin, just a footnote to that, if there's anybody who can overcome adversity and tough breaks, it would be Harvey, and I add Audrey Keene, because I had the occasion to spend some time with him this winter. And I'll tell you, you talk about Hall of Famers.
Oh, yeah. 1 ball, 1 strike, fouled away by Charlie, 1-2. The leadoff man, Tim Raines, on deck. No score in the 3rd inning. The Expos have had 1 base runner, Andre Dawson, who was hit by a pitch. And for the Dodgers, they've been retired 6 in a row. Breaking ball got him, and down goes Charlie Lea, and that would be strikeout number 2. So Bob Welch gets his opposite number, and in a moment Tim Raines, but Raines will consume some time to at least allow Charlie Lea to get back to the dugout. I always get a kick. You see a thinking leadoff man, and he's going to take some time, and the pitcher gets in the dugout, and then he swings at the first pitch.
And the next guy he talks to is the manager saying, hey, dummy.
Here's Tim Raines, fly to center, 0 for 1. Ball 1. Raines not only wears 30, but he wears a chain with the gold and then diamonds 30 hanging from his neck. We can see the chain, but not the emblem. 2-0. But he shouldn't ever forget his number. 2 balls, no strikes. Raines, of course, fighting what they call chemical dependency last year, and he has fought his way back. In fact, Bob Welch had his troubles with alcohol. Kenny Landreau had the same problem as Raines, and they have battled back and should be commended. But for the kids looking in, don't be a dummy. Don't even try it. And if you want to be scared to death, and I'm not plugging a magazine, look at this week's Time magazine. Oh, is that a horrible story. So here's a kid who knows what it's about, picked himself off the ground. He's back playing in the big leagues. And if nothing else, he can serve as an example. 2-2. Good breaking ball. Got him. Strike 3 called. Oh, he broke off a dandy. That's 3 strikeouts for Bob Welch. And he gets a man who doesn't strike out too often. Coming up for the Dodgers in the bottom of the 3rd inning, we'll have shortstop Bill Russell, the senior man, the catcher Steve Yeager, who has a sore knee, and the pitcher Bob Welch. All coming up right after this.
Don't miss the very best in baseball. It's a battle of the big bats. The Kansas City Royals and the Brew Boys from Milwaukee, or the Montreal Expos tangle with the Astros from Houston. Only on NBC Sports.
Bottom of the 3rd inning. No score in the ball game. There is the medal commemorating the Dodgers' 25th anniversary here in Los Angeles, coming across country in 1958. And they have been a very fortunate franchise. When you think they've won pennants and championships in 59, 63, 65, 81. Ball 1 to Bill Russell. Bill, a senior citizen on the ball club, underwent surgery to remove a piece of plastic that had been inserted in his right finger. He had been hit the year before by Mike Lacoste. 2-0, the count to Russell. Bill is the steadying influence. He's the quiet plainsman out of Oklahoma and Kansas, unruffled, although he looks like he came off a 4-H poster. 2 balls and no strikes. In there.
Then as we get the center field shot, I just focus on the catcher. Gary Carter, another one of those catchers, never makes the pitcher look wild, and he just fondles the ball. That's the best expression I can use.
Here's a 2-1 pitch. Line drive down the left field line, hooking just foul by a foot, so Russell will have to come back. Joe, how do you do that? I mean, how do you make the pitcher not look wild?
Well, by not jumping around back there, by catching the ball. There's some catchers who constantly drop the ball, and then they jump around, and there's a difference between shifting. In the great years at Campanella, you must have marveled, like I did sitting on a bench, how Campy would sit back there and he could catch an egg from 90 feet and not break it.
Gary Carter handling Charlie Lea. Of course, Gary Carter handles everybody. He plays all the time. 2-2, the count to Bill Russell. And that's hit into right field, sinking, and coming up is Cromartie to make the catch. So Russell, a fly ball to right field, one away. The fielders really have a break today because of the light cloud covering. Yesterday, you had brilliant sunshine and a sellout crowd. But today, because of that covering, as you can see, you have a little better chance of picking off the baseball and a much better chance than yesterday of being blinded out of it completely. Here's Steve Yeager. Ground foul outside of third, 0-1. Yeager's a little beaten up. It's early. He fouled the ball off his kneecap in Houston. And he has a problem, Joe, talking about catching. The elastic from the shin guard that goes behind his knee has rubbed the knee raw. Did you ever have that problem?
I never had it because just take a look at this guy's build. I mean, he looks like he's been poured into that uniform. I know people say, well, he should get his pants to be looser, but he's just a big guy.
Yeah. And those straps apparently have just eaten up the flesh behind the kneecaps, which I always think of the mask irritating the face. You forget about the kneecap. Ground ball to short. Staying with it is Little to get him. Good play. So we've seen 3 good ones down there at shortstop. Brian Little. With 2 down in the 3rd inning, the batter will be Bob Welch. Welch, when he first came up, was a reasonably good hitting pitcher. It seems like the older they're around, the hitters, the pitching hitters, begin to disappear. I don't know whether they begin to concentrate so much on pitching, they forget the way they used to swing the bat.
Well, they get more of Uncle Charlie, too, that big curveball.
Yeah, that's right, too. In 2 years, his average dropped 100 points from like 240, which is very high, to 140. 1 ball and no strikes to Bob Welch. 2 out, bottom of the 3rd, no score.
When that happens, you put that on your resume and you get a broadcasting job.
That's right, it's about time. Of course, he's really getting respect up there. Wiley plays him about even with the bag at 3rd. 1-1. Two down in the 3rd, no score. Dodgers and Expos. The Expos, winners of more games than any other team in the National League the last 4 years, but it's never paid off for them. Not yet, anyway. That's a strike. 1-2. The number 2 team over that same period of time, Montreal. Here's a little question, if you might or might not know, if you're a trivia buff, about Bill Virdon, who signed his first professional contract with the Yankees. But that's not the question. The question is this. Do you know that he managed for the New York Yankees, and he's the only manager in 60 years to manage the Yankees and never manage in Yankee Stadium? That's right. You know it, don't you? Ground ball wide to 3rd. Wallach has it over to Oliver. The trivia is that Bill Virdon managed the Yankees when they played in Shea Stadium because they were renovating Yankee Stadium. You might win a pop on that one. Coming up when the Expos bat will be Brian Little, the shortstop, Andre Dawson, the center fielder, and Al Oliver at first base. 4th inning, no score.
Earlier today at Shea Stadium, the Cardinals won their first game of the '83 season. Big blow delivered by George Hendrick. This single to center drove in Ozzie Smith and Keith Hernandez to make it 2-0. And then, still with no outs, Davy Green singles to center. 2 more Cardinal run scores. They scored an additional run. All 5 runs came in the 7th inning. The big start of the day for the Redsbirds was Joaquin Andahar. He went the distance, threw a 4-hitter, and struck out a career high of 9. The Cards 5, the Mets nothing. And elsewhere, the Toronto Blue Jays upset the New York Yankees, final 7-4. Let's go back to Los Angeles.
Here at Dodger Stadium, I'm Vin Scully along with Joe Garagiola, and it looks like the kind of ball game we hope for.
A pitcher's duel is the way they would phrase it, and it should be that way because it is early. 2 good ball clubs, and you got 2 pretty good pitchers.
Well, let's go take a look.
Why not?
All right. In the 4th, no score. It'll be Brian Little who just made that good play to throw out Yeager, followed by Andre Dawson and then Al Oliver. We have not had a hit for either side through 3 innings. Fastball ran away, ball 1. Little, you remember, slam went back off Welch's glove, deflected over towards Steve Sachs, who threw him out. He's got a big pair of shoes to fill, taking over for Chris Spire. Little high, ball 2, 2-0.
Spire is staying ready, though, and I like to see that. When he's not playing, he's working extra hard, and if the opportunity comes or Virdon asks, Spire will be ready.
2 balls, no strikes. That's in there, 2-1. By the way, we would also like to send along our best wishes for a speedy recovery to Walter Alston in the hospital, the Deaconess Hospital in Cincinnati. That's hit over the head of Steve Saxon, dropping into center field for a base hit. So there's the first hit of the day, and it goes to Brian Little. Little flare to center. And the batter, Andre Dawson. Walter Alston, who was supposed to throw out the first ball yesterday, suffered a heart attack. He's in Deaconess Hospital, and we just want him to know we sure are thinking of him. Say, friends, again, this year we'll be presenting the NBC Miller High Life Player of the Game Award. We'll announce our selection at the end of the game. And, of course, here would always be a logical candidate. Right after the anthem, you think of Dawson. Dawson was hit by a pitch. Remember, 1 and 2? The fastball got him on the left elbow. Brian Little at first. And now, after the pilot fish got aboard, now here come the Sharks. Dawson, Oliver, Carter, Wallach. So they will keep an eye on Brian Little. Little stole as many as 38 bases in the minors, so he can go get them. Breaking ball down, ball 1, 1-0. Welch has one trait, even though he's allowed just 1 hit. He is pitching backwards. He's been behind now to 9 of 12 batters. That's a dangerous way to live in the big leagues. Ball 2, 2-0. On deck, Al Oliver.
Dawson taking a look at DeMars, but if he should get the take sign here, paralysis would set in. He's hitting.
2-0. Checked his swing, but it's going to cost him a strike anyway. And the count, 2-1.
It's a pretty good battle going on right now because Welch is not giving in. 2-0 curveball. That's a pretty good piece of pitching, but it also sets up that manager's delight. They love to run 2 balls and a strike.
So we'll see about Brian Little, held on by Greg Brock. Top of the 4th inning, no score. Expos and Dodgers. We've got a dandy working here. East is east, west is west, never the twain shall meet, but that's not so here. Divisions and 2 clubs heavily favored. The Expos, over the last couple of years, have had a terrible time at Dodger Stadium. They've lost 30 out of 40 here. Oh, off-speed pitch, 2-1. That was a kind of a junk ball.
Hard to figure out why.
3-1, now he's really in a hole. Remember, Dawson has 7 straight hits. They're playing run and hit, and he fouls it off. I usually, and I should do this opening, saying run and hit. And a lot of people say he means hit and run. And I might as well just mention it once. Hit and run, naturally, you're obligated to swing at any pitch. Protect the runner. Run and hit, you have a 3-ball count. Why would you want to swing at ball 4? And I assume if they put it on 3-1, they got to come back 3-2, Joe. Huh?
I would think so.
We'll watch Little. There he goes. And a check swing. He didn't get much of a rip and fouled it back.
There are certain hitters that when you start that runner, they just do not have the discipline to hold back. And it is, you're dead right, it is a run and hit. And what you're saying to the hitter is, look, if it's your pitch, whack it. If not, take it. We got base runners at first and second, but some hitters just can't do that.
Yeah, Dawson a bit tentative on that swing. Now ground ball sharply to Russell. He goes to Sachs for one. To Brock, double play.
Then there was another element in that play. Wells kind of quick pitched, and he had little stop. He was only 2 feet off the bag at first base, and it really made it easy for this double play. He puts it in a pretty good spot, and by quick pitching, Sachs has no problems with the runner coming down. Look at here, not even in the picture.
No, that's a great point, Joe. So 2 down in the 4th inning, and Al Oliver in his 2000th game. He hit one on the button, but right at Bill Russell. 0 for 1, ball 1. 1-0 to Al. Dr. Scoop, as the Expos call him. High pop fly into shallow left. Could be trouble. A trio of Dodgers, Baker on the run. So despite the base hit by Little, they get the double play ball on Dawson, and Oliver a fly ball to left. And the score at the end of 3.5 innings, Montreal nothing, and the Dodgers nothing.
Before I swing for the bleacher seaties, I get the Edie's for my Wheaties. Before I slam my gorilla donkeys, I get the Edie's for my Wheaties.
The Edie's for Wheaties, that undeniable, irresistible urge for the crispy, crunchy, whole wheat taste of the breakfast of champions.
Before I put on my little cleaties, I get the Edie's for my Wheaties.
Part of your good breakfast.
Bill Mackatee back in New York, and in Kansas City, Royals right fielder Jerry Martin. Watch this, a shot to left. Keep your eye on Ben Ogilvie as he has trouble with a strong crosswind at Royal Stadium. The ball goes off the wall. It stays fair. Martin around the bases. He will beat the throw to the plate. Watch umpire Jim Evans signal safe. And inside the park home run for Martin. 3-2 Royals over the Brewers after 2.
And as we look at Tommy Lasorda, that reminds us, Joe, we'll be looking at that rematch of Kansas City and Milwaukee in Milwaukee next week.
I'm surprised they're even able to play today, though. That crosswind must be something because they had snow there.
Tommy Lasorda, the irrepressible one. No score, bottom of the 4th inning with Steve Sachs, Kenny Landreau, and then Dusty Baker. Sachs flied to right in the 1st inning. He's 0 for 1, hitting .273. Has a look and pays for it. People wondered that Sachs maybe would be too hyper to play in the big leagues, but he's calmed down. A 1-hopper to Wallach, and Tim will shoot him down. 1 away. Friends, tomorrow NBC Sports World takes you across the Atlantic for 2 exciting international events. Olympic gold medalist Howard Davis Jr. meets Englishman George Feeney in a scheduled 10-round lightweight bout from San Remo, Italy. And over 35 horses and their jockeys will compete in the historic British racing classic, the Grand National Steeplechase from Aintree, England. All the action comes your way tomorrow starting at 4:30 Eastern Time on NBC Sports World. Kenny Landreau pops it up around the plate, and Gary Carter coming back, looking up to shoot. You know, I wonder how they ever catch those balls.
Let me tell you, Vin, I'm the same way because it was so hard for me. That was a lesson for the young catcher. As soon as the ball went up, he found it, and then he took the mask. You just saw him retrieve it. He threw it halfway down the third base line so he wouldn't stumble on it, and then after doing all that, he said, well, I might as well catch it.
Yeah. I just look at it. Now watch him. Watch the mask, as Joe pointed out. Get away from here, mask.
Perfect. How come he can do so much and I could do so little?
You didn't do badly. Baker takes a strike. Dusty popped up in the 1st inning. I don't know how you practice either. I mean, I don't know how you practice unless they just drop balls from helicopters for you to ever get the feeling.
You get a wonderful guy like Terry Moore to keep hitting fungos straight up. And he comes up with a bad back, but you learn how to catch him.
There's another high foul off to the right. Oliver coming down, but nope. Carter said, I've got this one. Why not? When you can handle him that easily. And talking about handling them easily, that's what Charlie Lea is doing. All he has done is retired 12 Dodgers in a row. No score at the end of 4. We'll be back after these messages from your local station.
WPTZ, Plattsburgh, North Pole, Burlington, serving Burlington.
I think I would throw him a fastball on the very first pitch. If you remember the last time up, his only other time up, he beat a curveball into the ground. And he might think, well, they're going to get ahead of me and try to make me hit the breaking ball again. I'd start him off with a breaking ball right away. Let's see what happens.
All right, Bob Welch working on Gary Carter and bends it, as Joe would do if he were behind the plate. And it's a little low, ball 1, 1-0. Carter, Wallach, Cromartie. You know, there's a big difference. You can sit up here day after day, as I have for all these years. There's nothing like having been down there rolling in the dirt.
Those balls are scuffed, and Joe West is upset. Somehow he got some scuffed balls. There were 3 of them he just threw out all at once.
I wonder where they came from. 1 ball and no strikes. Oh, gee. What a no. Little roller up along third, foul, and the count 1-1. Billy DeMars coaching at third for Montreal. And over at first, his counterpart, Vern Rapp. There's Vern. 1-1 to Gary Carter. Robbed of a hit on a good play by Bill Russell in the second inning. 1-1 to Gary.
One!
Fouled away, and he was way out in front of it. He had all his weight on his front foot. And the count 1-2.
I know when I watch a ball game, I try to play along with him. Right now, he's ahead 1-2. If you were going to throw the fastball, here's where you would try to throw it, and he's got an option to go outside or move him back and then come back with the breaking ball. But the pitch of decision for me would be 2-2, not now.
Here's the 1-2 pitch to Gary Carter. Fastball foul back. By the way, you might be interested, Bill Virdon, if he had to rank his players, says his best 2-strike hitters are Tim Raines and Gary Carter. And his best 3-0 hitter. In other words, you're saying, yeah, I'm going to let you swing because you have power, and you also have a very good understanding of the strike zone. It's also Carter. So that gives you an idea of just all the talent this guy brings to the ballpark. 1-2 to Gary Carter. Woo. Almost like Dawson.
That's what he should have done the pitch before instead of try to challenge him, because he just went fastball hitter against fastball.
Look at that thing bore in. He just got the left elbow out of the way.
Sucked in the boiler, too, a little bit.
2-2. No score, top of the 5th inning. Only 1 hit in the game, a 3rd inning, make it the 4th inning single by Brian Little.
They had a little bit of indecision there. Yeager and Welch were not together on this pitch.
2-2. Fastball fouled away off to the right and out of play. Interesting thing about Bob Welch and Charlie Lea, they both had winning years last year, and they were both in terrific pennant races. And yet, each man could win only 1 game the last 5.5 weeks of the season. Lea pitched great. It's just a matter of the Expos couldn't get him any runs at all. Outfield deep and around to left. Landreau way over in left center, and there's ball 3. They don't usually overcommit too often here because it's a pretty good-sized ballpark, but occasionally with a hitter that you can just about bet the house on, they'll go all the way. And Marshall over in right center. 3-2. Off-speed hit to straightaway center. Landreau has to go back to get it, and he does. One down, and the batter will be Tim Wallach. Fine young third baseman for Montreal. Boy, if their starting team stays healthy, it's awesome to look at the Olivers, the Wallachs, the Dawsons, the Carters. It just goes on and on.
You got Cromartie hitting 7th. You got pretty good hitting.
Oh, I should say. Missed with that, ball 1. Wallach, number 3 as far as third baseman with home runs, but he's in the high rent district with Mike Schmidt and Bob Horner. And he's really just starting out. 2-0. and 565 in this ballpark. Hit it off the hands, but he's strong enough to hit it into center field for a base hit. So with one out, Wallach nudges one into center. That's hit number 2 of Bob Welch. And the batter will be Warren Cromartie. Cromartie lost a hit on a good play by Russell in the second inning. So the Crow is 0 for 1, hitting .222 in the early going.
Got that big hole between first and second. He has not been pulling the ball. They're still shading him towards left center field. Almost indicate that maybe Virdon will start somebody and break up that infield.
Brock holding a corner on Wallach at first. Ball 1 to Warren Cromartie. You might remember a couple of years ago, Cromartie had a consecutive playing streak. He was in there every day for 245 games. Got to be pretty strong. So Wallach at first. One away, 5th inning, no score. And now Welch is falling into a pattern of his pitches going up, and they will really be watching him. Ron Pernoski in the Dodger dugout will be keeping his eyes on Welch. We mentioned at the start, almost like a buggy whip move, he'll have a tendency once in a while to recoil. Wallach at first, 2-0 to Cromartie. Let's see if there's a play in the works. Wallach doesn't go, and it's ball 3. And Welch continues to work behind. He has been behind now to 13 of the 16 batters he's faced, and that is fooling around with dynamite. 3-0 to Cromartie. And then you get to Doug Flynn and the pitcher, Charlie Lea. Down the pipe, 3-1. We'll see now they play run and hit 3-1. Yep, there goes Wallach. The pitch is ball 4. So the Expos are in business now with 1 out. They have runners at first and second. For Bob Welch, the first walk, although he did hit a batter. And it'll bring up Doug Flynn.
Second baseman, Doug Flynn. I asked Steve Yeager about Welch, what's going to get him in trouble, and if he does something, is he heading for trouble? Here's what he said.
There's a couple of things. First of all, he'll start getting the ball up high in the strike zone. He'll start falling towards first base on his delivery, and he'll start rushing quite a bit.
Well, we've seen him get the ball high in the strike zone, and of course, we pointed out at the start of the game that falling towards first base is a tendency of his anyway. Here is Doug Flynn. Ball 1. Flynn, one of 7 different men to play second base for Montreal last year, and they're hoping that he can hold the job. They had troubles at second base. They also had trouble in the number 2 hitting spot. I think they had 19 players bat second last year, and they only hit about 220. Fly ball to left. Baker coming in and over, dives, can't come up with it. And that means Wallach is around third to score. Holding at second is Cromartie, and the Expos have broken through to lead 1-0 on a fly ball single by Doug Flynn. It wasn't much, but it was just enough.
Baker, for a minute, thought he had it. Tried to backhand it. You can see he wasn't even close to it. The ball was not really stung as far as Flynn. He just kind of reached out and sent it out towards left field in a good spot, and they jump out to a 1-0 lead.
Now with 1 out, the Dodgers feel that Charlie Lea will bunt. They pull up the corners, and they're expecting Lea to bunt to stay out of the double play and let Raines come up with runners at second and third. And he got a good bunt down, and it's going to be Guerrero over to Steve Sachs, and he came off the bag, and the bases are loaded. And Guerrero will draw the error. Take a look.
Guerrero throws a ball that sails. He's had arm problems. Now, it is sailing right there, and you can see Sachs is pulled off the bag. Good call by Ed Vargo. Guerrero had plenty of time, but you could see the way he threw the ball. It was like a slider. He kept sailing away from Sachs.
So Bob Welch in a jam. You have Warren Cromartie at third, Doug Flynn at second, Charlie Lea at first. And, of course, for a pitcher who has been battling it anyway, to be hurt by the bottom of the Montreal lineup, that really hurts. After walking Cromartie, the Flynn single, and now the sacrifice and the error. Tim Raines has flied to center and struck out. He's 0 for 2. And, of course, in the early going, after a dismal spring where they committed something like 44 errors, the Dodgers are finding the shoes are a difficult fit, with Marshall in right, Guerrero now the third baseman, and young Brock at first. The infield coming up. Ball one, 1-0. 1-0 in favor of Montreal with one out, but the base is loaded and a chance to break it open. Tim Raines 0 for 2. Hit right through the middle, over second base into center field. Cromartie will score. Here comes Flynn to score. They throw to Sachs, not in time to get Charlie Lea at second base. And it is 3-0 Montreal.
Wonder why Landreau didn't try for the play at the plate. The ball is sent right back up the middle. It hit fairly sharp. Welch, as we've been pointing out, falling towards first base, out of position to field, and now Landreau doesn't really come up throwing. He hesitates here, and now he makes the play at second base. It's a close play, and tagged him high. Otherwise, he would, I think, gotten him.
From the stands, of course, they knew that the ball appeared to be there ahead of Charlie Lea, but it was a tag up above the kneecap. The run is at first and second. It is a 3-run fifth inning, and now Brian Little, the batter. Ball one. In the Dodger bullpen, right-hander Dave Stewart begins to loosen up. 9-game winner last year. Charlie Lea at second, Tim Raines at first, and there's a strike to Little. 1 ball, 1 strike. That's the only way you stop Raines from running wild. Put somebody in front of him, especially a pitcher. 1-1. Little, of course, the book is he likes to bunt. Takes a strike. So Guerrero was playing up, and now with 2 strikes, Pedro goes back to a normal depth. So 2 on, 2 out, 3 runs over. And it is 3-0 Montreal. La Belle Provence. Slow roller wide of first to Brock. He'll have to shovel to Welch coming over, and then Bob takes a look to the infield immediately. So first base open, and Andre Dawson coming up. Tim Raines advancing to second, Charlie Lea to third. Dawson hit by a pitch and hit into a double play. That's what makes the Montreal lineup so great. Oh, sure, you got first base open and a place to put Dawson. Then all you do is get Oliver.
You get a lineup like that, when you put somebody on, all it does is let you know where he is.
Yeah, right.
So it tells you what neighborhood he's going to be in.
Andre Dawson hit by a pitch and then grounded sharply to Russell, who turned it into a double play in the 4th inning. He is off to a great start. He's up there in batting average, in hits, in RBIs, on-base percentage, slugging percentage. Quite a player. Off speed, fouled away, 0-1. He's about as close to a complete player, I guess, as there is in the league, Andre Dawson.
Oh, I think so. I referred to him earlier. Bobby Bonds was one of the real exciting players for me. Anytime you have the ability to hit 40 home runs and steal 40 bases, you are a complete player.
0-1 to Andre. Fastball seemed to run away a little bit. There's a little action on that pitch, so if he's tiring, why, that fastball was live.
Dawson is doing something that good hitters do. He sees 2 men on, he's going to knock them in. He doesn't want to wait for the base on balls. You say, well, he's got Oliver coming up there, but if you think you can do it, you do it. Don't wait for the other guy.
0-2 to Andre Dawson. Wouldn't go after that one. 1-2 the count. Dawson from Miami, coming off a .301 batting average. In fact, his last 3 years with Montreal, he's hit over 300. We mentioned only Bill Buckner and Dawson able to do that over that period in the National League. 1-2. Half swing. He didn't touch it. The ball goes through Yeager's legs. Lee scores, and here comes Raines. And Raines is safe. And here comes Lasorda. Lasorda is telling Welch.
He's got to tag him.
Right, he's waiting for him.
He's waiting. He hasn't done a thing.
It was a check swing in the dirt. It went between Yeager's legs all the way to the backstop, and it is ruled ball 2. The reason why Lasorda was arguing, he thought maybe it was strike 3, but it wasn't. Take a look. The bottom dropped out of it, but it also dropped out of it for Yeager.
Yeager got down on the ball. It still went through his legs. He really didn't get the glove to block that tailgate area. And rain's coming all the way. What do you think?
In a cloud of dust. So it's a 2-run wild pitch, a 5-run 5th. And the Dodgers are down 5-0. Here's another look at Raines coming home. Got that hand on the plate. So Dawson now with the count of 3-2. And Welch is not ready. He's pretty disgusted.
That really tells you something about Mr. Raines. He's ready to play baseball this year. Last year it'd be 4 or 5 pitches. He's kind of in that fog, but he's ready to play this year because no coach can help you score from second base on a wild pitch. You have to put it in gear and take off.
And put it in gear and take off. That would certainly describe Tim Raines scoring from second. 5 runs in the 5th inning. Change, pull down the left field line, foul, and out of play. So Dawson is the 8th man to come to the plate in the inning. There have been 3 hits, a sacrifice, a throwing error, and then, of course, a very expensive wild pitch. 5 runs, 4 hits, no errors for the Expos, no runs, no hits. The throwing error by Guerrero for the Dodgers. 3-2. A drive to left, hooking down the line, foul, and out of play. Welch, by the way, in this inning alone, and he is not a strong man. He has now made 30 pitches in this inning. And he is the kind of a fellow who, although he's certainly big enough and looks like he weighs enough, but he is not strong. Fouled away. Upstairs in the press box and out again. Welch is due to bat 6th if the Dodgers can generate any offense in the bottom of the 5th inning. And Dave Stewart has been throwing back of him, so he's on the horns of coming out one way or the other. High fly ball into left center. Landro says he has it and makes the play, but a very expensive inning for the Dodgers. 5 runs, 3 hits and an error. And at the end of 4.5 innings, it is 5-0 Expos with Guerrero, Brock, and Marshall coming up.
Elsewhere in the major leagues this afternoon in Atlanta, bottom of the 9th, pinch hitting Bob Watson for Pete Falcone. He delivers a single to left field. And Glenn Hubbard will score. The Atlanta Braves beat the San Diego Padres 6-5. The St. Louis Cardinals won their first game of the '83 season 5-0 over the New York Mets at Shea. Joaquin Andahar had a 4-hitter. The Blue Jays upset the Yankees 7-4. Jesse Barfield hit a 3-run home run. And the Reds beat the Cubs 8-4. The Cubs have now lost 4 straight. Let's go back to Los Angeles.
Pedro Guerrero, Greg Brock, and Mike Marshall in the bottom of the 5th inning. 5-0 Expos. Leave it to Bob Watson to drive in the winning run. Guerrero robbed of a hit in the 2nd inning. A fine play by Tim Wallach, and he takes ball 1, 1-0. Guerrero's been playing with a sore throwing arm, but it doesn't bother him hitting at all. He's batting .231. Change, shot put kind of a change. Ball 2, 2-0. A couple of ways that pitchers throw change-ups. The old way, they used to teach everybody to throw the change as if you were pulling down the window shade. Fastball. They've come up with a couple of others now. One where you just choke the ball with all the fingers around it. And another, I guess for want of another description, you call it a circle change. You hold one side of the ball with index finger and thumb, and the other 3 fingers are almost off the ball. 3-0. Fastball in there, 3-1. The Dodgers having troubles with Charlie Lea. Tomorrow they look at Steve Rogers against Fernando Valenzuela. Ground ball sharply to Wallach. Like a vacuum cleaner, he sucks that up and gets him one away. So that means 13 in a row retired by Charlie Lea. And the batter is Greg Brock. With a modest 3-game hitting streak, he flied to center in the second inning.
First baseman.
Is there one game, you know, Lee's got a perfecto going so far. One game you caught, Joe, that will forever stay in your mind?
One game?
Yeah.
No.
You never handled a no-hitter?
Never. No. In fact, I didn't see a no-hitter until I started doing Game of the Week, 7 years ago I saw it.
High fly ball into right field. Cromartie, however, going towards the line. Now in foul ground, reaches up to backhand the ball and came up with it. What a fine catch by Warren Cromartie on that high twisting foul down in the right field corner.
See him find that line. He could feel, as soon as he hit it, he could feel the dirt. He could feel himself getting off the grass, but he really makes sure where he is and then just reaches over right there. He makes a good catch. He was concerned about a fan. I think he hits that older fella right there in the head.
So with 2 down in the 5th inning, 5-0 Montreal, Mike Marshall takes a strike. Interesting, too, as you look at Mike Marshall, big kid who is in right field, one of the 2 hopes for 83 and for the next 8 years or so. Check swing, a little dribbler down to get it is Oliver. He will flip to Charlie Lea, and that's that. So Welch pitching consistently behind the hitters, and Lea consistently pitching in front. End result, at the end of 5 innings, Montreal 5 and the Dodgers nothing. Top of the 6th inning, Montreal leading the Dodgers 5-0. And for the Expos, Al Oliver, followed by Gary Carter, and then Tim Wallach. 8 men coming to the plate in the 5th inning for the 5 runs. You know, that reminds me, if you're hooked at all on numbers, I did a World Series game on NBC a long time ago. Ground ball to the hole at short, backhanded by Russell. The long throw to Brock in the dirt, dug it out. Good play. 1 away. We were asking Gary Carter, what does it feel like? What does it mean like to suddenly have a managerial switch and suddenly you're working for Bill Virdon, the taciturn one?
Well, Bill Virdon is a fine man, certainly because he's a disciplinarian, he's a fundamentalist, and I enjoy playing under him because he is of all of those qualities, and he is going to bring us a winning season this year.
Okay, Gary, and here he is with the bat. Grounded to short, fly to center, 0 for 2. Fouled away. I did a World Series game. Carl Erskine was pitching for the Dodgers against the Yankees. And before the game, Erskine said to me, isn't that something? Today is my 5th wedding anniversary. It happened to be October the 5th. So I went up. It was the 5th game of the World Series. The Yankees scored 5 times in the 5th inning. So help me. All those 5s. And when the game was over, the Dodgers went on to win it. He stayed in. And if I remember correctly, the time ended up 55 to the hour. Honest. 1-1. No comment necessary.
No, you know what you've just done?
No.
You got everybody running out to buy numbers on 555. That's what you've done.
Yeah, that's long before the high 5. 2-1. 3-1. The count to Gary Carter. Tim Wallach on deck. High twisting foul off third, down the line. Russell can't get it, but Baker's coming to the stands, but he's going to run out of real estate too. Once in a while, you'll get a little air current that'll bring that ball back, so Baker was coming over. And I meant to mention that on that play by Cromartie. It always seems to me to be the tougher and the better play if it is made by the visiting player, because he's not that accustomed to the ballpark, and especially an Eastern team in the West, or vice versa.
A lot of merit to that.
3-2 to Carter. Ball 4. Welch walked his first man in the 5th inning, so this would be walk number 2. And as we pointed out, he's making a lot of pitches. He has made 80-some-odd pitches. Charlie Lea has only made 40. Welch has been consistently behind to the batters. Lea has been the other way, consistently in front.
And if you're wondering with numbers again, a normal game between 90 and 105.
Little pop fly, and Guerrero will handle it. So they get Wallach for the 2nd out. And the batter now, Warren Cromartie.
Right fielder, Warren Cromartie.
Warren Cromartie lost a hit on a good play by Russell and walked in the 5th inning. Were you conscious of how many pitches a man made when you caught?
No. I was always watching stuff, but you always usually had somebody on the bench that would tell you that.
Off speed, missed down and away. That's been the pitch he's really been working on, the change. 1 ball and no strikes to Cromartie. And the next pitch that Welch makes will be his 90th pitch here in the 6th inning. 9-0. 5-0 Montreal. Come up with a big 5 in the 5th. That's in there. 1-1. Things are also building up today because of Charlie Lea. 1-2 the count. Remember, Lea, through 5 innings, has a perfecto going.
And it's interesting, he has not struck out a man, which keeps down the pitches. That's Whitey Ford's theory.
Fouled off to the left, out of play. Lea, of course, has been there. He's got a no-hitter tucked away under his belt. Back in 1981, he no-hitted the Giants.
Whitey Ford always used to say, I'd like to make 1 pitch and get 1 out rather than 3 pitches and get 1 out.
1-2. Fouled away again. So Cromartie fouling him off the other way. Gary Carter holding at first with 2 down. Top of the 6th inning, Montreal 5. 5 runs, 4 hits. And the Dodgers no runs, no hits. Doug Flynn on deck. Hit to center. Landreau right there. So they will leave Gary Carter, who walked. No runs, no hits, a man left. At the end of 5.5 innings, the Expos sitting on top of a 5-0 lead, and when the Dodgers come up in the bottom half, the question is, will it be Welch hitting 3rd? Bottom of the 6th inning, 5-0 Expos, and before we get more play-by-play, I'd like to remind you tomorrow you have a reserved ringside seat as NBC Sports Ringside travels to San Remo, Italy to bring you exclusive coverage of a scheduled 10-round bout between unbeaten welterweight Nino LaRocca and Bobby Joe Young. Join Marv Albert and the fight doctor, Ferdy Pacheco, as they report all the action blow by blow tomorrow, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time on NBC Sports Ringside. That lady with the Dodger blue jacket is Mrs. Joe Lasorda. Sitting next to her is Nita, Mrs. Monty Basgall, the Dodger coach. Bill Russell, followed by Steve Yeager, and then we'll see about Bob Welch. Welch due up 3rd. 1-0 the count. Dave Stewart has been throwing in the Dodger bullpen, so you know Lasorda's thinking hitter. Slider got the corner, 1-1. The Expos, despite their troubles at Dodger Stadium last year, were a very good road club. Ball 2. In fact, they were the 2nd best behind Atlanta. 2-1 to Bill Russell. Won't chase it. Ball 3. Now remember, Lee is working on a perfect game. He's retired 15 in a row, and he finally gets to an edge. First 3-ball count of the day.
There was an example of a catcher not making the pitcher look wild. That ball bounced. He just flicked it like he had tweezers in his hands.
3-1. Ground ball down to shortstop. Brian Little over to Al Oliver. So it is still alive. 1 away. And the batter will be Steve Yeager. Yeager lost a hit on a good play by Brian Little in the 3rd inning. 5 runs, 4 hits for Montreal. No runs, no hits. 1 error for the Dodgers. Boy, would this be, what a story this would be, particularly in Canada, because Charlie Lea was born in France, in Orleans. You don't think they would be dancing in the street? Half swing, and it cost him a strike. 0-2. Charlie makes his home in Memphis. He's only 26 years old. 1 out in the 6th, 5-0 Montreal. Breaking ball, 0-2. So there he is again. Every time you look up, he has to count his way. Well, that must be a delight to catch a man like that.
All you have to do is remember the fingers you put down.
You know the catcher who came to the big leagues, I won't mention his name, who used to look down at his own fingers so he'd remember what he was calling? Yes. Now, there's a catcher who's a little weak. 0-2. Ball 1. That's... But I wouldn't dare give you his name.
Suffered a lot of headaches every time you think.
1-2 to Yeager. Fastball, and he didn't get around on it. That's what happens after looking at all those breaking balls and taking half swings and kind of feeling for the ball. Zip. The express kind of leaves you on the station. 1-2 to Yeager. Fouled away. Boy, has he been putting the heat on the hitters. With one strike after another. He's not letting up. The only time that 3-ball count to Bill Russell. Little nubber. Lee down to get it. Backhands to Oliver, who made a good play to stay on the bag. Charlie Lea knows what's going on, Joe. He doesn't want one of these dribblers to get in his way.
And he finishes well, and he can go to either side. There he is. Now he sees the ball and almost nonchalantly backhands the ball, sets himself, doesn't hurry it. That makes the play for him.
Ron Renicky, the brother of Gary Renicky of Baltimore. Ron coming up to bat for Welch. So with 2 down in the 6th inning, Charlie Lea has the Dodgers by the neck, 5-0. Renicky, a switch hitter. 0-1. L.E.A. Charlie Lea. And there's one hit into left field, and that's it, numero uno. Renicky's going for 2 with the club down 5-0. He's in there.
He seemed to hit that ball off the end of the bat. Hits it in a great spot. He did hit off the end of the bat. It almost sounded like it cracked. And what made the play, as far as him going into second base, was that ball was bobbled a little bit. But your point is well taken, Ben, that the club down by 5. You saw the reaction of Lee. Club down by 5. Renicky had to make sure he was going to make it, or he'd have had a little welcoming committee when he came in.
And now, well, Steve Sachs, the batter. Renicky was the Dodgers' most successful pinch hitter. He had 13 last year, and he was the 6th man in the National League in pinch hitting. So he still has his stroke. He's 2 for 4 this year. On the corner for a strike. So Charlie Lea is doing something he hasn't had to do all day. Pitch out of the stretch. He's in the 6th inning with 2 out, a runner at second, and he has a cushion to lean on. It's 5-0 Montreal. For Sachs, he's trying to do something he couldn't do last year. Ground foul. Sachs did not have an RBI against Montreal last year, the only team that shut him out in that category. And Lee immediately asserts himself and has him 0-2. Sachs is flied to right, grounded to third. Renicky at second base. 2 down, 6th inning, 5-0 Montreal. Carter fought that thing, didn't he?
He blocked it. He just smothered it. And it's a great lesson, once again, on what catching's all about. You can't let that ball get by you and give up the base.
Carter playing every day, so it figured he would lead National League catchers in chances and putouts, assists. But the big thing is, playing every day, he still hits so well until the very end of the year when he just had to run out of gas. 1-2. Line drive into right field, base hit. Renicky is around third. Cromartie, a good throw to the plate. He is out at the plate.
Great tag by Carter. Just a great tag. He gets a good hop, but watch his positioning. And he just puts that ball in the glove, and it's just he's just in control. He knew exactly where he was, made Renicky slide exactly where he wanted him to slide, and held on to it.
So it remains 5-0 Montreal through 6, and we shall be back after these messages from your local station. We're going to the 7th inning here at Dodger Stadium. I'm Vin Scully along with Joe Garagiola and Dave Stewart picking up the pieces for Bob Welch. Stewart will be pitching to Doug Flynn, followed by Charlie Lea, and then Tim Raines. Fastball for a strike. Stewart with a good fastball. He's been working on a sinker as he works on Flynn. Flynn hit back to the box and single to left. There's the sinker, got away from Yeager. He throws it along with the seams and puts extra pressure on the forefinger, and that's all he does, and the fastball suddenly has a tendency to drop. He has the problems of a young pitcher. He has a tendency to overthrow, to try and throw beyond himself. Fastball and a one-hopper by Brocken down the line. Flynn is on the bag and going for 2. Marshall's throw to Sachs is not in time. So Doug Flynn greets Dave Stewart with a double to right. The Expos against Bob Welch in 6 innings, 5 runs, 4 hits.
If he bounces that ball, he's got a shot at him, but the throw pulls actually Sachs up away from the bag, and the left hand is able to get in there. There's what I'm talking about.
It's another example, Joe, of on-the-job training.
Right.
You're trying to make an outfielder out of Mike Marshall, trying to make a third baseman of Guerrero.
If he gives him that ball about belt high with one bounce, he's got him.
Well, the Expos have a 5-0 lead, looking for more. The Dodgers are looking bunt. And a breaking ball strike. Lee struck out, and then you remember sacrificed in the 5th inning, and that's when Guerrero's throw pulled Sachs off the bag. Oh, and 1. Good save by Yeager. 1-1.
He really slides his hands up that bat handle. He's got very little bunting area. But I'll tell you, that last bunt he laid down was a beauty. Usually they give themselves a lot of area. He doesn't have much.
Interesting if you could do both, watching him bunt close up while not losing the play. The throw behind the runner. If you can see his hands, you'll notice one hand is way up the bat. You don't see too many people do that anymore.
No.
Watch that top hand go up. See that? That doesn't give him much bunting surface.
Also, get a mashed finger from it.
Yeah, right. 2-1. There's a bouncer to Brock, and he'll go to third. And his throw is wide, so the runners are at first and third.
That's another one of those plays that Monty Basgall, the infield, the defense coach, says they're just more aggressive. They're going to be more aggressive, and Lasorda explains it by using the first time I heard the expression, the Branch Rickey expression, I'd rather have the errors of enthusiasm rather than the wisdom of complacency. But he came up firing, and I think if he'd have been looking, he might have said, well, I better make one sure out.
This looks like a very enthusiastic Dodger team.
Very enthusiastic Dodger team is right.
That'll be a straight sacrifice. No error on the play. Sacrifice fielder's choice puts runners at first and third with nobody out. And here's Mr. Raines. Fly to center. struck out and then singled, 1 for 3. Dodgers bring the infield up again. The way Charlie Lea is pitching, it's one of those things you feel like you have to keep your infield up from the first pitch. Dodgers still looking for a run. Had it cut down at the plate. Renicky chopped down on the base hit to right by Sags. In there. 0-2 to Tim Raines. Brian Little on deck. So Charlie Lea at first, over at third Doug Flynn. We're in the 7th. The Expos 5 runs, 5 hits, and the Dodgers no runs, 2 hits. One and 2. Stewart won 9 for the Dodgers last year. And he got him. And Tim Raines hit on the right arm. And he's just going to let that arm dangle a little bit. You know, whenever I see someone hit like this, Joe, I often think of how Ron Hunt ever played the game. You know, Ron Hunt, the little second baseman, one year, was hit 50 times.
50 times that you and I knew about.
Oh, yeah, right.
He practiced it. You know, how can you practice getting hit with a pitch? What some of the guys used to do in the old days was wear the uniforms that kind of fluffed out and then be extra size so that it would nip the uniform. Crossetti was good at that. But to stand there and practice getting hit with the ball, that takes a little bit of guts.
You know, it's a terrifying thought. You realize that when Ron Hunt was hit 50 times, he was hit 10 times by Nolan Ryan. I mean, how would you ever come back to the ballpark, and why, after being hit 10 times by Nolan Ryan?
Hey, one of the things that told me I wasn't long for the Cubs was the day that I was called in to pinch hit, and the manager said, in all seriousness, and this was a hard-throwing pitcher, Rex Barney, he said, if he wants to hit you, let him.
Let him. Well, Casey Stengel, they said, maybe it's apocryphal, told some weak hitter on the Mets, go up there and take one in the neck. This telecast presented by authority of Major League Baseball may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. But Raines is okay, thank goodness. Hurting a little bit on that right arm. The bases are loaded, and the batter is Brian Little. And the Dodgers in another mess, down 5-0 in the 7th. Nobody out. 0-1. Little slammed one off Welch's glove, and Sachs threw him out. Then he singled to center for the first hit off Welch in the 4th and grounded out to Brock in the 5th. 1 ball, no strikes. 1-1. Pat Zachary is now loosening up in the Dodger bullpen, and I don't mean to demean Zachary, but when you see Pat throwing right now, he would probably be rated last on the staff. It is almost that time where you say, okay, let's get somebody some work. Ball 2, 2-1. Because you take the Dodger starters and make Joe Beckwith the 5th. Then you get Steve Howe, Alejandro Pena, Tom Niedencure, and then Stewart, and then you get down to Zachary. Checked his swing. You're going to look at third. No swing, says Dave Davidson. Or as they call him, Satch. They call him a lot of things. 3-1 to Brian Little. Bases loaded. Flynn at third, Lee at second, Raines at first. Nobody out. 5-0 Montreal. They're trying to break it wide open here. Down the pipe. 3-1. Now 3-2. Stewart, in and out in the spring, pitched well in Houston his first time out. But a double, a sacrifice, and a hit batter, and he has himself in a jam. Little foul off to the left, out of play. Back in amongst the customers, so it's still 3-2. Expos everywhere. Flynn, Lee, and Raines. Almost got him. Ball 4. Just missed hitting him. So everybody moves up 90 feet as Little picks up the RBI. Flynn scores. Lee goes to third. Raines to second. Little to first. And a downcast Tommy Lasorda, or as close to being downcast as he ever gets, making his way to the mound.
See that? I always think of the late and great Billy Meyer, and managed over Pittsburgh. He'd always say, the nits and nets, you let them get on, those lions and tigers will eat you up, and that's what we got coming up.
And Pat Zachary, who really looks like he got here on a raft. When you take a look at him, you'll understand why. He will be coming in this little gem with the bases loaded, nobody out, and Andre Dawson due up. Hello. See you in a minute.
All right, we're up 15. We got this game won.
Yeah, you guys are buying a light beer from Miller. Yeah, nice Philly.
One out to go. Yeah, what can he do to us now?
Hey, keep the change. Here's Rodney! Any pinch hitters left?
Here I am.
Come on, Lee!
Beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer, and less.
Hey, wait a minute. This game isn't over yet. I caught that ball.
Joan Rivers, along with her imaginary character, what is it, Heidi Abramowitz. She's going to be on Johnny Carson, Saturday Night Live.
Oh, Saturday Night Live.
She's been on She's dynamite.
She's got to get out of her shell someday, though.
Yeah, she's so shy and retiring.
She really is. Yeah.
6-0 Montreal, and Pat Zachary is now asked to pitch to Dawson, Oliver, and Carter with the bases loaded and nobody out. That's like sending your cat to obedience school.
And I tell you, you better watch the first pitch because Zachary may think he'll get a strike and get ahead of him, and Dawson just won't let him.
Andre Dawson hit by a pitch, grounded into a double play, and flied to center. So Andre 0 for 2 and hungry. Little slider on the corner. It's not a case, I don't believe, of the Dodgers falling in love with another pitcher, but 7 years ago, Zachary beat the Dodgers 5 times. One of those stories, wow, he sure looks good. He beats us all the time, so let's get him. 0-2. Another pitcher who beat the Dodgers 5 times, Juan Marichal with the Giants, and they both became Dodgers. So here's Pat. Got rid of the beard, but kept the mustache. Half swing foul. You know, when they talk about Zachary, I've heard the expression, a dart thrower. And on that last pitch, it's exactly what he looked like. It was 0-2, and he was aiming that fastball on the inside corner. Big sweeping breaking ball, 1-2. He has a very good change, fastball slider. Had arm troubles with the Mets. Thought he was going to be a big star when he first came up with Cincinnati, but had his problems. 2-2.
Good play. Not because that was my position, but he just saved a couple runs.
Sure did.
At least one. I say a couple because you just don't know what that guy at second base Raines.
That's that Toulouse-Lautrec where you play the day on your knees. Fouled right into the Dodger dugout. So they're going after all of them. That's Jose Morales, the Dodgers' #1 pinch hitter. So they sent him the ball. Said, go ahead and hit this. 6-0, Montreal, 7th inning. Off speed and a fly ball to left. Tagging is Charlie Lea. I can't believe they'd send the pitcher in. Oh, where did he go? He left third so soon. That might have been the all-time leaving of third base. Oh, that was remarkable.
Billy DeMar's talking to him. He said, look, I told you to go ahead and score, but you have to wait until he catches it. Charlie said, oh, really?
The rule says, Charlie. He's a little embarrassed. He took off long before the ball had reached Baker. I wouldn't believe they would send him in leading 6-0 the way he's pitching.
I wouldn't think so either, but I guess they were testing Dusty's arm, trying to find out something about whether he can throw.
Here's Al Oliver, lined out to short, flied to left, grounded to short. Al 0 for 3 in his 2000th game. They'd love to come up with a knock right here. He drives it to Landreau in deep center. Landreau on his horse going back to get it and makes the catch. Lee can now tag and score. Going around to third is Raines and holding at first is Little. And, of course, the way Raines feels and the way he runs, there's no reason to just concede the fact he's only going to go 90 feet. But that makes it 7-0 Montreal, and Tim will hold on. So Oliver picks up an RBI. And he finally gets Charlie Lea home. That run belongs to Stewart. And with 2 down, the batter is Gary Carter. Carter lost a hit to Russell on a good play. Flied to center and walked. Ball 1. That's the change. Seven runs, 5 hits for Montreal. No runs, 2 hits, and an error for the Dodgers. They had a man cut down at the plate. Ball 2, 2-0. Tim Raines standing at third. It's rare to just see him stand. Over at first, Brian Little. For the Dodgers, I guess they'll go home and read T.S. Eliot. Remember the wasteland? April is the cruelest month. It has been that kind of a start here at home. Ground foul outside of third. And for the Expos, they were undefeated.
They'll go home and watch Saturday Night Live.
Right.
Laugh a little bit.
She's outrageous. She really is outrageous. 2-1 to count to Gary Carter. On deck, Tim Wallach. Popped in the air, foul. Guerrero across the line, coming over towards the dugout, right on the edge of the dugout, and backhands it. Fine play, and he was being talked in by Morales and Hooten. Nice going, Jose. So 2 runs for the Expos, and at the end of 6.5, the Expos 7 and the Dodgers nothing. Again, a feature honoring some of the greats in baseball history on our 7th inning stretch.
The 7th inning stretch, brought to you by Old Spice Aftershave and Cologne, the fresh, clean, masculine scent women love.
Duke Snyder played with cool intensity and a regal touch of disenchantment. When he first joined the Brooklyn Dodgers in 1947, his swing was majestic, but too wild and eager. Duke learned quickly to ignore unworthy pitches, and his lively power paced the National League in home runs and RBIs. A Dodger for 18 years, Duke's lifetime slugging percentage is one of the highest on record, and his subjects feasted whenever the Duke hoisted a homer over the wall into Bedford Avenue. Duke also had a commanding presence in center field, and in 6 World Series, he made several unforgettable catches. Joining an illustrious group of teammates in the Hall of Fame, he remains the Duke of Flatbush, the beloved sovereign of the underdog.
At Royal Stadium in Kansas City, Brewers half of the 6th. Ben Ogilvy's at third base. Don Money lofts his short fly ball to center field. Amos Otis takes it on the fly. Ogilvy, however, is going to gamble. Here's the throw, a perfect strike. John Wathan applies the tag, and the Royals are out of the inning. The Royals lead the Brewers 4-2 in the bottom of the 6th. Elsewhere, the Indians beat the Orioles 8-4 in their home opener. Grand slammer for George Vukovic. And Rod Carew has done the same. The A's trail the California Angels 5-2. Let's go to Kansas City.
Welcome to those of you who've been watching the Expos and Dodgers here in Kansas City. Bob Costas with Toni Kubek. Last half of the 6th. The Royals have scored a run in this inning to increase their lead over the Brewers to 4-2. UL Washington is the runner at first, and George Brett is the batter. Milwaukee jumped in front with 2 in the top half of the 1st. A single by Molitor and a triple by Yount, the key blows in the inning. Kansas City came back on RBI doubles by Brett and White in the last half of the 1st to tie it at 2-2. In the bottom of the 2nd, an inside the park home run by Jerry Martin made it 3-2. And in this inning, an RBI double from Willie Wilson has increased the lead to 4-2.
Neither pitcher, Larry Gura nor Bob McClure, particularly sharp today. Each thrown quite a few pitches.
2 balls and a strike to Brett. Doubled in the 1st, infield single in the 2nd, walked in the 4th. Popped him up. This will be the 3rd out of the inning. Yount takes it in front of Gantner, but not before. Kansas City scores another run and increases their lead to 4-2 at the end of 6.
Well, here at Dodger Stadium, it's 7-0 Expos in the 7th inning with 1 out after Kenny Landreau hit a fly ball to left field, and Dusty Baker popped up and fouled out 0 for 2. Baker, with a modest 3-game hitting streak, hasn't been able to do anything with Charlie Lea, but no one has except for the pinch hitter Renicky and then Sachs' base hit. There's a drive to left. If it stays fair, it's got plenty of distance. It's gone. Home run, Baker. So Dusty Baker, who had 3 home runs and a dozen RBIs against the Expos last year, shows he still has the stroke.
He just grabbed the fastball. Charlie Lea just trying to stay ahead of the hitters, and he drove it deep into the stands. You get a lead like you have, the one thing you don't want to do is walk people.
Guerrero takes outside, ball 1, 1-0. So it is 7-1 Montreal. Baker flanked by Fernando Valenzuela on his right and Landreau the other. And there's a base hit by Guerrero. So with 1 out, Baker homers and Guerrero singles. And their batter will be Greg Brock. We pause briefly for station identification. This is the NBC television network.
This is Channel 5, WPTZ, Plattsburgh, North Pole, Burlington.
As Bill Virdon squints and sends his pitching coach, Galen Cisco, out to the mound, Jeff Reardon gets up down in the Expo bullpen. There is Jeff with that sinister-looking beard. In fact, he, this spring, was asked by Bill Virdon to take that beard off. And Reardon said, if you don't mind, I'd like to keep it because it helps me to intimidate the hitters. And Virdon said, okay, if it works.
It's like Roboski's act used to intimidate him when he had that good fastball.
That's right.
That's what intimidates you.
Charlie Lea started 27 games last year and completed 4. Of course, the complete game really disappears now in the day and age of specialists. Though he has gotten into the 7th inning with 1 out and leading handily 7-1. He is 0-3 against the Dodgers lifetime, but the Expos never scored for him. There's a strike. Guerrero not going anywhere, and since they're down by 6, The Dodgers keep him at the bag. 1-1. Oliver not holding. Lee losing 3 times to the Dodgers, but he lost 2-1, 3-1, and then one time he was blown out 10-1. Ground ball up along first base, foul to Al Oliver, and the count 1-2. So Guerrero back to first. The Expos scored 5 times in the 5th inning. It was a scoreless tie until then. Added 2 in the 7th to break it wide open. Baker has homered here in the bottom half of the 7th. So it's 7-1 Montreal. 1 out, and the Dodgers trying to get off the floor against 26-year-old Charlie Lea. Born in Orleans, France. Lives in Memphis. It up on the left side. Tim Wallach along with Brian Little, and it's Little. So Brock pops up. He's 0 for 3, and with 2 down, Mike Marshall the batter with Guerrero holding at first. Marshall has popped up to Oliver and grounded to Oliver. Montreal 7, Dodgers 1.
If you were Marshall, would you look for a fastball inside?
I sure would. They've been starting him that way. And Mike's not about to take much. He is that kind of an offensive hitter anyway. If anything, they're going to have to just reach in there and loosen the springs. That'll come with time, I guess. 0-1. There's the fastball inside. He didn't get around on it. Hit it to Wallach, who throws it into right field. And Guerrero will go to third. Wallach, in going wide to his left, felt he didn't have a play on Marshall, and he was going to go the quick way, and threw it away.
Way too close to the infielder. He makes a nice play by getting the ball, but look how close he gets to second base before he releases it. I mean, he guns it.
So Tim Wallach draws the throwing error. There are runners at first and third with 2 out, and Bill Russell the batter. Russell flied to right, grounded to short, 0 for 2. So the Dodgers trying to shake themselves here. With 2 out, they've been given a break. Fastball strike. Remember, through 6 innings, Russell was the only one to work the count 3-1, and he eventually grounded out. Lee has had absolutely magnificent control. Lined into center field, base hit. Guerrero scores. Marshall stops at second, and that will be all for Charlie Lea. Bill Virdon making his way out to the mound. So all of a sudden it disappears only because of the error. He needed a defensive help and didn't get it. So Russell a base hit and a run batted in. The Dodgers have scored twice, and with 2 out in the 7th inning, Expo 7, Dodgers 2. Charlie Lea went 6 2/3, and he will give way to right-hand relief specialist Jeff Reardon.
Baseball fever. Catch it. It lasts forever.
The preceding message was furnished by Major League Baseball.
In the 7th inning, Jeff Reardon will pick up for starting pitcher Charlie Lea. You can see Reardon's numbers last year. He has been bothered by a sore back. He was born with a cracked vertebra, and it has never truly healed, so he can only bend over, and if you ask him to touch his toes, I would say he could probably just about touch below his kneecaps. That's as far down as he can get. Reardon has had an ERA of 2 for the last 3 years, and he is certainly one of the standout relief pitchers in the league. As you can see, the Dodgers think he's about as good as they come. And he averages about 7 strikeouts for every 9 innings he pitches. Now the Dodgers counter with Rick Monday. The Dodgers had the lowest pinch hitting average in the National League last year, but Renicky double coming off the bench. And the Dodgers are 2 for 2 coming off the bench this year. So now Lasorda is hoping to come up with a third. And Monday going against Reardon. Monday batting for Steve Yeager. And Mike Scioscia is out on deck to bat for Zachary. Gary Carter, meanwhile, is trying to move his left fielder, Tim Raines, more straight away, not to play Monday to pull that much. And, of course, they will always remember Rick Monday in Montreal. Steve Rogers in relief, the final day, the final pitch. And Monday hit it over the center field fence, and the Dodgers went to Yankee Stadium for the World Series. Ball 1, 1-0. So the veteran Rick Monday off the bench, 1 ball and no strikes to count. High foul, out of play, off to the left. The Dodgers at first and second. Marshall at second, Russell at first. 2 out, 2 runs in. Expo 7, Dodgers 2. Jeff Reardon wants a new ball to work with. So it's Reardon against Monday in the 7th inning. That's where it's at, isn't it, Joe, in the bullpen?
If there is a weak spot on this Montreal club, that would be it. I mean, left-hand relief pitching, they have Woody Fryman, but how many times can you ask him to go to the well? Reardon, the ace, is the guy who's going to have to do most of the work, and that's where it is. You win and lose pennants in the bullpen.
1-1. Ball 2, 2-1. For Monday, he's a veteran of over 16 years in the big league, so he's accustomed to whatever pressure spots there might be. And this would be the first one for him this year. Two and 1, the count to Monday. Marshall at second, Russell at first. High fly ball to right field. It's playable. Warren Cromartie looking up into the pale blue, and that will be that. The Dodgers will get 2 runs. They have 3 hits and an error, and they leave 2. And at the end of 7 innings at Dodger Stadium, the Expos 7 and the Dodgers 2. Hi, everybody. Montreal leading the Dodgers 7-2 through 7 innings. What do you think?
Well, I think it was the kind of a game you would expect this early. A few mistakes. You see some of the chink in the Dodger armor, and I agree with you. It's going to be a very enthusiastic Dodger team. I don't know how enthusiastic Lasorda is going to be, but they got a set lineup. But, Vin, I think the Dodgers have problems.
And we're going to see Harvey Keene and Dick Hauser next week. Kansas City, last we heard, leading Milwaukee 4-2, and that ought to be an interesting matchup for Game 2 and a first look at the American League.
And anytime you can see guys like Robin Yount and Molitor and Gorman Thomas in action, you're in for a treat.
Hope you'll join us. Right now, let's go back and take a look at the 8th inning. The Dodgers bring in Joe Beckwith to pick up for Pat Zachary. Beckwith is an interesting story, and certainly a fellow who should be commended. Mike Scioscia is going to handle him behind the plate as the Dodgers make that 2-for-1 switch. And so Beckwith would bat 8th, and Scioscia would bat 9th, so that Scioscia can lead off in the bottom of the 8th inning. Beckwith 2 years ago, while pitching, snapped his head and actually did damage to the retina of his eye. One of those freak accidents, but it just sidelined him, and he has fought his way back. Ground ball sharply speared by Guerrero. Off the bat of Wallach. High throw, tagged by Brock, got him.
He's throwing like his arm is bothering him, Ben.
Oh, it is.
Very definitely. He just kind of flipped the ball over there. The ball is sharply hit. He makes a great play to come up with. He has plenty of time. Then he kind of slings it over there and makes a very exciting play out of it. Brock has to leave the bag and make the tag, and that's always exciting.
For Greg Brock at first base, he is 6'3". Steve Garvey was close to 5'10". So there is an advantage for height over there at first base.
Garvey had to stand on the bag a lot of times to take that high throw and pick up that extra couple of inches.
On the other side of the coin, Garvey was much better than Brock in digging the ball out of the dirt. High foul ball off third. Guerrero has lost it. Here comes Baker trying to catch up to it. He can't do it. Guerrero had no idea. No fair on a bounce, Dust.
Look at him laughing down there, Vin. That ball just shot right up. They thought, oh, maybe I'll get away with it, but no way. Satch Davidson right there on the fly.
Watch this. Hello. Yeah.
Watch him start grinning. Look at him. Look at him. One of the real nice guys, Dusty Baker. Dr. Scald.
In the land of the Academy Award, he was a candidate for a moment, but he didn't make it. 7-2 Expos, top of the 8th. So Cromartie is still up there, 0 for 2. Foul back. 1-2 the count. The Expos scored 5 times in the 5th inning. With 1 out, Wallach single, Cromartie walked, Flynn singled in for a run. There was a sacrifice and a fielder's choice as Brock handles that ground ball back to Beckwith, 2 down. Tim Raines singled in 2, and 2 more were wild pitched over, so it was 5-0 Montreal at the end of 5. In the 7th inning, the Expos had Flynn double, Lee sacrifice and make it safely as the throw to third was not in time. Raines hit by a pitch to load him up. Little walk, forced in 1, and Oliver's fly ball got the other home to give the Expos 7. The Dodgers had a home run by Dusty Baker. A Guerrero single was eventually cashed in by Bill Russell. High chopper to Socia. Got him. So Flynn is thrown out, 2-3. The Expos go quickly in the 8th inning. Very quickly, only the 3rd time today they've been retired in order. Here's the way the Dodgers stack up, coming up in the bottom of the 8th, with Montreal leading the Dodgers 7-2. Bottom of the 8th inning here at Dodger Stadium. I'm Vin Scully along with Joe Garagiola, and the Expos sitting on top of a 7-2 lead. Mike Socia, followed by Steve Sachs, and then Kenny Landreau. A reminder, tomorrow, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Family Circle Cup Tennis Championship live from Hilton Head, South Carolina. Tomorrow's a big day. Tomorrow also, NBC Sports Ringside and NBC Sports World. Ball 1 to Mike Socia. There's the fight. Ringside, Nino LaRocca and Bobby Joe Young from San Remo, Italy. That's a strike. 1-1. Mike Socia, remember, was out on deck after Monday batted for Yeager. So Socia is batting 9th, and Beckwith is in Yeager's spot. And Jeff Reardon trying to get the last outs for Charlie Lea. 2-1. Socia had a big 1981. The Dodgers figured that they had themselves a fixture and more than just an alternate for Steve Yeager. But he fell upon lean times last year and hit only .219. Jim Wolford is now in right field for Montreal. So Warren Cromartie taking a rest the last couple innings. Wolford's last club, the San Francisco Giants. Expo pitching ate Socia up last year, and they do the same. Sounds like he hit it with a magazine. 1 away. Mike had only 3 hits and 30 at-bats against the Expos. When you played, and no jokes intended, but it must really be discouraging to have such a bad time against one particular ball club.
And you know it better than anybody, and you try things, you really notch yourself, and like you say, in my day, it wasn't a magazine, they'd say you hit it with a wet sporting nose, but that's the feeling.
So Socia rolls out to second, 1 away, and the batter is Steve Sachs. Steve flied to right, grounded to third, single to right. He's 1 for 3. Unfortunately for Steve, remember we mentioned he did not have an RBI against Montreal last year, the only club against whom he failed to knock in a run, and he singled, and Renicky was thrown out at the plate in the 6th inning today. So he's still looking for 1 against the Expos. 2-0. The managers, what a case in study. Effervescent, ebullient, nose-picking Tommy Lasorda, which is an awkward time to catch him. And that's the way he is. That's the way he runs his club. Bill Virdon.
Virdon sits there, and you always want to put a sign there, batteries not included.
Yeah. You know, he's one of 8 current Major League managers who finished in first place with a previous team. Here's ball 4 to Sachs. Whitey Herzog, Dick Williams, Billy Martin, Ralph Houck, Sparky Anderson, John McNamara, Dick Hauser. Here's Kenny Landreau. Landreau has grounded to third, fouled out, flied to left. He has not pulled a ball. I'm not sure if it's the way Charlie Lea pitched him or that sore wrist that he has. Right. The x-rays did prove negative. There was no considerable swelling, but they did tape it and then put a special support to help the wrist. It's the left wrist, and it's that tan or brownish material. And he couldn't pull that one. He'll pop it up back at second base. And let's see, Brian Little puts it away.
Look where Gary Carter was, way out beyond the mound. He was just out there to do nothing more than to holler somebody off to play.
And with 2 down, here's Dusty. Baker popped up, fouled out, and then homered in the 7th inning. 7-2 Montreal, bottom of the 8th inning. Baker hitting .357. Ball 1. Dusty followed by Pedro Guerrero. Line drive down the left field line. That's in there for a base hit. Sachs to second and holding. The throw cut off by Brian Little. So Baker singles, Sachs at second. And with 2 out, the Dodger fans come alive a little bit as Pedro Guerrero makes his way to the plate. Took Guerrero a long time to get an RBI last year. I think he went about the first 2 weeks of the season without an RBI. And then the first game this year, he had 5 RBIs against Houston, but he has cooled off a little bit. 1 for 3 today. Look at that Carter. Ball 1.
With men on base, he didn't reach for it like you see many catchers do. Two-handed in front of the ball. They used to always say, watch him just dance out there and scoops it up towards the body. They always said if you got in front of the ball, you were a good catcher. If you were able to catch the ball while you were in front of it, you were a great catcher.
We're looking at one, all right. 3 straight gold gloves. 1-0. Ball 2. 2-0. There's Steve Sachs standing at second, Dusty Baker at first with 2 out in the 8th. Expos 7, Dodgers 2. Expos scored 5 in the 5th. Each side scored 2 in the 7th. Now we're in the bottom of the 8th with 2 out. And now Reardon is struggling. And Al Oliver Oliver is going to go pay him a visit along with Carter.
He didn't throw that last pitch with any authority at all. It seemed like he just kind of aimed it, almost like he was in a little bit of pain.
Yeah.
He did not cut that ball loose. And when you have a 5-run lead, the one thing you really don't want to do is start walking people.
And we repeat, to his credit, he has had a bad back, a birth defect, and it flared up on him. So if he looked like he was in pain, he might very well be in pain. 3-0. In there, 3-1. On deck, Greg Brock, the left-hand hitting first baseman. So Guerrero trying to keep it going. He had a big year last year against Montreal, but of course that was last year. Foul back. In 12 games against Montreal, he hit almost .390, and he had 10 RBIs and 3 home runs. So they have a very healthy respect for him, of course. But Montreal also has a 5-run lead. Dodgers with 2 on and 2 out, and the runners will be going on a 3-2 pitch to Guerrero. Jeff Reardon had to come in relief of Charlie Lea in the 7th inning with 2 on and 2 runs in, and he got Rick Monday. So the runner's ready to go. To Pedro Guerrero. Sachs and Baker go, and it's fouled away. So Sachs returning to second, Baker to first. Baker, of course, coming off knee surgery this past winter. Count to Guerrero with 2 down. Expo 7, Dodgers 2, bottom of the 8th. Runners go, and it's fouled away again. So Jeff Reardon hanging tough. Sachs at second, Baker at first. Runners go. Fouled away again. Fly into shallow center. Coming in for it is Andre Dawson, and Reardon is out of the jam. So Guerrero, pop fly, the Dodgers leave 2, and at the end of 8, Expo 7 and the Dodgers 2. 7 runs, 5 hits and an error for Montreal, 2 runs, 6 hits and an error for the Dodgers.
In the majors so far today, first in Atlanta, the Braves got a pinch hit RBI single by Bob Watson in the 9th. They beat the Padres 6-5. The Cubs are still winless in 83. They lost to the Reds this afternoon, 8-4. The defending world champion Cardinals beat the Mets at Shea, 5-0. Cardinals first win, Mets first loss. Joaquin Andujar, 9 strikeouts today. Cleveland over Baltimore, George Vukovich, a grand slam. The Yankees lost to Toronto, and we'll send you back to Dodger Stadium.
Well, you get back just in time as Greg Brock makes the first out in the 9th inning, hitting one to the hole. An exceptional play by second baseman Doug Flynn. Say, friends, we can take a look, Joe. And getting up out of the dirt, Flynn makes his play to Oliver. So 1 down, and Mike Marshall, the batter. You know, this week's NBC Miller High Life player of the game is pitcher Charlie Lea. Miller High Life is happy to present a check for $1,000 in the name of Charlie Lea to the Special Olympics. Lea was brilliant. He had a perfect game for 5 2/3 innings. And Charlie finally got the wobbles and came out in the 7th. But he might have gotten all the way had it not been the error by Tim Wallach. And look out, hit him right on the helmet. And Mike Marshall, you could hear it hit the helmet. And so Mike Marshall hit, I pray, on the very top of the helmet. With 1 out here in the 9th inning and the base is empty. Tommy Lasorda, Dodger trainer Bill Bueller, Manny Mota, Bill Russell, all around the fallen Marshall.
I tell you, Vin, that's an awful sound. And as a catcher, I was involved in one with Stan Rojak, and you just wait, and you do sneak in a couple little prayers.
Yeah, and how? It's a scary situation anytime a matter is hit, especially in the head. And without another word, you can look and listen. But he might have gotten all the way had it not been the error by Tim Wallach. And look out, hit him right on the helmet. And it was one of Reardon's better fastballs, and it got him high above the left temple. But, of course, even though he has a helmet on, it's as if somebody hit him with a hammer. And I remember 2 years ago, right here, Rich Gossage hit Ron Say in the head with about a 95-mile-per-hour fastball.
It almost hits the white L.A. letters in that helmet. And I'll tell you, 1952 was the year the helmets first came out. I remember because I was with the Pittsburgh Club and how they laughed at us. And I've told this story so many times.
They used to call you soapbox players.
Oh, soapbox players, miners, and everything. And it all stopped the day in Chicago when Paul Pettit was the pinch runner and Roy Smalley threw a double play ball that completed at first base and hit him in the helmet. And it caromed into the stands. It made a giant dent in the helmet, and Pettit was able to walk off, much like Mike Marshall was able to walk off. Those little inserts that they had, and it used to just tickle me because those guys that they, who's going to be throwing at you guys? What are you guys wearing those for? You bunch of garbage cans on your head.
Shortstop.
But when that happened, it stopped because there's nothing about a lack of courage for wearing a helmet.
And the batter now will be Bill Russell. Candy Maldonado will run for the fallen Mike Marshall. Say, friends, we'd like to remind you Major League Baseball Game of the Week has been brought to you by Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? Buy light beer from Miller, everything you've always wanted in a beer, and less. By Speed Stick deodorant, the wide stick, effective protection in just a few strokes. Speed Stick by Menon, and by Honda, the world's largest manufacturer of motorcycles and ATC three-wheelers. Follow the leader. He's on a Honda. Fouled away. 1-2. Interesting, too, Joe, in talking about the helmet. First, it was grudgingly worn by the hitters. Then it became a rule on a lot of ball clubs where the fellas run the bases always wearing a helmet. And finally, it got to where I know in some ballparks they wear helmets in the outfield. A reminder, the executive producer of NBC Sports is Michael Weissman. The coordinating producer for NBC Baseball, Harry Coyle. There's a looper back at second base, and it'll be handled by Doug Flynn. The telecast of today's Game of the Week has been produced by George Finkel, directed by Harry Coyle. Technical directors Ray Figelski, Associate Director Ray Bonassi. Darrell Thomas will now come up and bat for Joe Beckwith. I tell you, and I've been doing this for so long, no matter how exciting the game, and granted this has been a routine ball game, as soon as something like that happens, I don't care anymore.
Well, it puts everything in focus. Is what it does.
Yeah. Mike Marshall, of course, will be taking for preliminary X-rays. The Illinois boy will be thoroughly examined, and we'll have a further update on him tomorrow on 30 Rock. Strike. Darryl Thomas batting for Joe Beckwith. He's 1 for 1 as a pinch hitter this year. Darryl plays just about anywhere. The only thing he hasn't done in this game is pitch, and there'll be a day. Two out, 9th inning, 7-2 Expos. 1-1 the count. There you see it, a 5-run 5th inning. Kind of broke it wide open. Each side scored twice in the 7th, but 5 in the 5th. I guess for the Dodgers, the low 5, and for Montreal, a high 5 indeed. Right, 1-2. Actually, the Dodgers have out-hit the Expos, but the hit column is not a payoff window. 7-2 Montreal. 2 down, 9th inning. Ground ball to shortstop, Little to Flynn, and that will do it. The Expos remain unbeaten as Thomas rolls to shortstop. 7 runs, 5 hits, and an error for the Expos. 2 runs, 6 hits, and an error for the Dodgers. Welch, the loser. Charlie Lea, the winner. We'll be right back. For the Montreal Expos to come into Dodger Stadium, they were able to win 3 of 6 last year. They've won 2 straight. So the Expos beat the Dodgers 7-2. This has been Scully for Joe Garagiola. It's been a pleasure. Stay tuned for nightly news coming up.